Chapter 396. The arena that had been cleaned was very clean. Other than the potholes that couldn't be filled up for the time being, the rest had been cleaned up. Lin Kei stood in the center and watched Chindigua, who had a red hero's headband around his head, step by step. He was the second leading member of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College and a direct beneficiary of Ran Li and Peng Lian's entry into the University Martial Arts Circle. Originally, he was just a little talented and thought that he would not waste his life if he could enter the Dan stage in 4 years of college. Plus, he was sure that he would get a diploma and live a good life even if he did not join the professional martial arts circle. However, when Ren Li entered the school in his sophomore year, he realized how narrow his vision was and how low his goals were. His ambition was ignited and he wanted to achieve something. He did not feel sorry for his vigorous youth. With the help and introduction of Ran Li and his own hard work, he successfully entered the Kongtong school and received the inheritance of the Wind sect. In May of his second year of college, the forces in his body were integrated into one and the qi was generated from his body. He entered the ranks of the Dan stage. In the following 2 years, he steadily improved and was now a real professional 7th pin in the Dan stage, the second strongest in the University Martial Arts Circle. Of course, he also paid a certain price for this. That was, he was influenced by Ren Li. He would often think about martial arts problems while walking. When he was in the mood, he would find a place with no people and practice for a long time. As a result, he became a road idiot. His road idiocy was completely different from Ren Li's. It was not that he could not recognize the road, but that everything around him was strange when he came back to his senses. Once, the president and the vice president of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College went missing at the same time. This is not an easy opponent to deal with. Lin Kei thought, bits and pieces of the enemy flashing in his mind. Chindigua got the 7th pin certificate half a year ago. Now he could only be stronger. Chindigua paused and steadied himself. He got into a fighting stance and stretched out his right palm, making a starting gesture. Lin Kei's thoughts returned to normal. All he could see was the enemy in front of him and his every move. He lowered his waist and also got into a fighting stance. The atmosphere suddenly became solemn. In the seating area of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Yanjika put her palms together and put them in front of her mouth. She became nervous again and stopped chatting with her boyfriend. Lu Qing bent forward and put the bottle of sedative and brain-invigorating liquid at his feet. Then he crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at the ring without blinking. He had barely completed his goal. Whether he was a dragon or a worm would depend on his brother-in-law's performance. Ren Li should be able to break through to the inhuman stage in the second half of the year and become a high-ranked Dan stage expert. Peng Lian will only be faster. Maybe he has already opened the door and is just waiting for a long time to pass. As for myself, I can only say that my overall combat strength is at the top of the 6th pin, but my body's internal training realm has not yet reached this level. Dan Qi was the crossing of a large realm, while inhuman was the advancement of a small realm. In essence, the former obviously brought more changes to a martial artist. However, judging from the performance effects, breaking through to inhuman obviously brought more improvement to one's strength than stepping into the Dan stage. Why is this happening? Because the higher the level of martial arts, the stronger the accumulated power. Even if it was only a relative, small improvement, the absolute amount of power obtained would be very terrifying. Just as everyone was holding their breath again, the referee raised his right hand and waved it down directly and forcefully. Start. Lin Kei's body suddenly stopped shaking. He condensed his breath and then immediately exploded, rushing to his feet. His leg muscles thickened and his knee joint straightened. He rushed out with a crack, moving 7 or 8 meters in one leap, as fast as a shooting star. As a modern martial artist, Chindigua had already watched countless of Lin Kei's fighting videos. He was deeply impressed by Lin Kei's opening attack and was prepared for it. Bang! He raised his right leg, swung his ankle rapidly in the air, and kicked out a crescent-like strong wind in the opposite direction, going straight to Lin Kei's eyes. This was a kind of cold blade, but his realm and strength were not as good as Ren Li's, so he could not create such a sharp and terrible wind blade. He could only attack the weak points and try to interfere with his opponent's vision. Moreover, Lin Kei's forward movement was so fast that the combination of the two would produce a better impact effect. Maybe it could press the capillaries, lens, and optic nerves of his eyeballs, making him temporarily blind. Whoosh! The crescent-like strong wind whistled and rushed. Lin Kei suddenly raised his left hand in front of his chest to block in front of his face. His flying posture did not slow down and forcibly broke through the cold blade. Chindigua did not expect to be able to block a strong opponent only with the blade kick. After his right leg kicked out the strong wind, he quickly returned to his original point, cooperating with the contraction of his chi and blood, strength, and spirit. Boom! His Dan chi erupted like a volcano. He took a step forward and took the initiative to meet the attack. His left arm was extremely heavy, as if it was supported by thousands of pounds. At the same time, Lin Kei suddenly stopped. His muscles trembled and his fascia jumped, transforming the kinetic energy of the high-speed forward movement into the power of the blast of his right hand. Boom! Lin Kei's fist was like a bomb from the barrel of a cannon, hitting the front and exploding the airflow, rolling out shockwaves that were enough to cause internal injuries to ordinary people. Bang! Chendigua's left arm, which had been dragged behind, was ready to be pulled out. Like a steel whip, he fiercely swung it at Lin Kei's meteor blast, not even half a step back. Moreover, the strong wind brought about by his whip blew towards the ground, and actually created a muffled sound of collision. It was enough to show how terrifying its might was. If it was the arena before it was cleaned up, it would definitely cause debris to fly up and dust to scatter. Flying sand and rolling stones in a fight between masters was definitely not a myth or legend. Bang! The whip hit the airflow and burst it. Chendigua's body swayed backward, and he took the opportunity to lift his leg and pull it forward diagonally. He knew very well that Lin Kei was good at using meteor blast, followed by earth crack, to launch a series of attacks, so he simply performed the unique leg movement of the wind sect, tornado, to attack first and avoid the attack. Bang! 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 He pulled out his two legs continuously, and the strong wind from each attack was integrated into the following attacks, lifting his body half up, as if he was flying. Seeing this, Lin Kei arched his body, lowered his center of gravity, and pulled his arms apart. Relying on the stretching and retracting of his fascia and the shaking of his joints, he madly threw out many punches, as if he had grown many arms. The 113th move of the fighting sect, 8 Arms Divine Fist. Bang! Bang! His shoulders exploded, and his arms moved quickly, aiming at the opponent's instep, and blasted out a meteor force. Bang! Chindigua seemed to have stepped on a landmine. Numbness and trembling jumped up from his feet. For a moment, he felt that his right leg was no longer made of flesh and blood, and had lost connection with his body. His body swayed backward, and his chi and blood fluctuated. He slightly recovered on his tiptoes and resisted the urge to immediately use force concentration to eliminate the influence. Instead, he visualized the whistling wind that filled the sky, and used it to control his muscles, fascia, and internal organs. Through their changes and cooperation, he created waves of special waves that filled his whole body. The storm force of the wind sect. He was very clear that if his chi and blood flowed back, Lin Kei would seize the opportunity to perform the ground cracking and completely lose his balance. Then he would be caught by the follow-up death sentence. Therefore, he had to find another way to deal with it. Bang! Chendigua's body seemed to be filled with chi and became light and weightless. While Lin Kei gathered and released his chi and blood, he stamped his right foot down and plowed with force. Bang! The arena shook violently, as if a volcano had come to life inside. The ground under Chendigua's feet cracked, spewing out waves of chi and gravel. However, he was like a kite, swinging backward with the rapid shaking and upward surge. Lin Kei's eyes were still indifferent. Seeing this, he raised his arm, made a gesture, and shouted quickly in a low voice, "Okay." His body moved like lightning, and in a flash, he was in front of Chandigua. Chandigua swayed and then used force concentration to stabilize his chi and blood flowed back. While eliminating the influence of the meteor force, he swung his arm and launched a counterattack, making Lin Ke look like he was actively approaching his fist. However, Lin Ke came too fast, and he had not finished swinging his arm yet. At this moment, Lin Ke stopped abruptly. Under the circulation of yin and yang, his muscles trembled, turning the forward momentum into a swing of the center of gravity, which involved the drive of the fascia. Bam! Lin Ke moved his body sideways, so that Chandigua's fierce punch brushed his body and hit the air. Then he stretched his body, swung his left arm, and hit the enemy's head with a roar like a tiger. Not bad. Lu Qing nodded slightly. Since the beginning of the battle, Lu Qing seemed to be very anxious and fierce, but in fact, he was not as reckless as he looked. Now he finally seized the opportunity. Chapter 397. Chandigua knew he was in trouble when he missed his target. He immediately leaned back and lifted his right arm up like a seesaw, narrowly blocking Lin Ke's left fist. Bang! His hastily parried arm was hit and bounced off. Lin Ke used the combination of the 24 blizzard strikes and the yin-yang twist to swing his left arm and step out diagonally with his right foot. At the same time, he straightened his body and sent out his right fist towards his opponent's chest and abdomen without leaving any gap. Before Chandigua entered the Kongtong school, he had already made a name for himself as one of the top professional ninth pin fighters. What he practiced was the Tai Chi hammering method, which was passed down in his family. At this critical moment, he straightened his back with the help of the momentum of his right arm and threw his left fist in front of him. Bang! With a muffled thud, he hastily blocked and retreated before he could stabilize himself. However, once Lin Ke's mega avalanche was launched, it would not be so simple. He retracted his fist and tightened his leg. With a spring of his knee, he launched a low kick with the tip of his foot. It was smooth and ferocious, not giving his opponent a chance to use force concentration. It seemed that he wanted to use this body-refining kung fu to directly kill his opponent. Amidst the continuous explosions, Chandigua barely managed to fend off the storm-like attacks, and gradually began to feel suffocated. He knew he couldn't go on like this. If Lin Ke kept winning, it wouldn't take much energy for him to defeat him. Bang! Chandigua hurriedly raised his left arm and blocked Lin Ke's blast punch with iron chain crossing the river. While his body was swaying, he suddenly shook his right wrist at a high speed. With the infusion of storm force, he shook out a crescent-shaped strong wind and directly attacked his opponent's eyes. Wrist sword, the exclusive move of the Chens. Chandigua was just an ordinary disciple in the Kongtong school. He was not a core disciple, so the storm force he was taught was not a top-secret skill of the Wind sect. Unlike Lu Cheng's frost force, it could not be promoted to a core force. Driven by it, the power of Cold Blade was not as good as Ren Li's when she was at the same level. Chandigua accepted the fact, but he didn't want to accept the result. He thought hard every day and practiced from time to time. Under Ren Li's guidance and the reference of many materials, he modified the skills of Cold Blade to suit himself better and created the wrist sword. In terms of effect, it didn't improve, but it was faster and more subtle. It had become one of Chandigua's trump cards. Its biggest use was to break combos and disrupt the rhythm. Of course, he had the time to think about these things because his strength improved slowly. Unlike Lu Cheng and Lin Ke who improved rapidly, he had too many things to learn and master. He didn't have the time to think about these things. Woo! As soon as the wrist sword was drawn, Lin Ke felt a sharp pain in his eyes as he sensed danger approaching. This wouldn't hurt him, but it was enough to suppress his eyes and cause a temporary negative effect. It was like being slapped in the eyes by a child. He was in an attacking position and had no time to parry. He immediately lowered his center of gravity and buried his head. I just want you to slow down. Chandigua swung the wrist sword and withdrew his chi and blood without hesitation. Taking advantage of the pause of the mega avalanche, he exploded his dantian force, swelled his left arm, and fiercely punched out. He changed from defense to offense and launched a counterattack. Lin Ke was also a seasoned fighter. He knew that if he hastily dodged the wrist sword, he would be attacked continuously. He lowered his center of gravity and withdrew his chi and blood as well as his force. Now that the meteor was falling to the ground and the volcano was erupting, he threw out a punch and collided with Chandigwa's attack head-on. Bam! Their fists bulged with small muscles and bulged with blue and black veins. They seemed to be stuck together in the air and were frozen in place. After a moment, a strong wind blew, blowing away the debris they stepped on. In the spreading airwaves, they both staggered backward and bounced their arms back. At this moment, Chandigwa made another Dan concentration and kicked out his right leg with the ferocious momentum of double explosion. He had thought it through. Since he had found an opportunity with the wrist sword, he had to make a series of explosions and force Lin Ke to do the same. In this way, even if he lost to Lin Ke in the end, he would almost exhaust Lin Ke's physical strength, which would give Xiao Chan, who would be the last to fight, a good victory. From the previous matches, it could be seen that Lin Ke improved very fast. In his peak state, he could probably make 7 or 8 explosions. With the top inheritance of the fighting sect, it was absolutely right to say that he was a strong 7th pin fighter. However, Chandigwa was not weak either. Although the force he had been taught was not the best and the moves of the Wind sect were not many, he could also make 7 or 8 explosions as a senior 7th pin fighter. At close range, he was facing consecutive explosions from an opponent of the same level. With these two conditions added together, Lin Ke naturally couldn't take it lightly. He could only follow suit and retract his chi and force to deal with the rebound from the collision just now. He quickly pulled back his leg and blocked the enemy's kick with a bang, setting off a violent wind. Bam! Bam! Without any hesitation, Chandigwa made triple explosion, quadruple explosion, elbow strike, and knee strike. Without any pause, he continued to attack. Bam! Bam! Lin Ke firmly resisted and integrated 24 blizzard strikes and yin-yang twist into the consecutive explosions of the dance stage. Every move he made was more and more powerful. Chandigwa knew that Lin Ke was good at leveraging his opponent's strength, but he didn't expect that Lin Ke could do it so well. After the quadruple explosion, Chandigwa was horrified to find that he couldn't suppress his opponent anymore. Bam! Lin Ke gathered all his senses into his lower abdomen. Using the force of the explosion, he stretched his body and punched out with his fist like he was holding a giant hammer. Chandigwa gritted his teeth and withdrew his chi and blood. He made 5 explosions in a row and moved his left arm upward. He had to do so, or he would be beaten to a pulp immediately. The situation he had worked so hard to avoid had become a trap to restrain himself. Bam! 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 Chandigwa felt that his opponent's strength was so great that he could not resist it anymore. He could not help but retreat quickly. Lin Ke's eyes were deep. He did not hesitate to withdraw his chi and strength, which immediately burst out and thickened his legs. He stamped his right foot at the right time and plowed the ground. He used the unique skill of the fighting sect, ground cracking, before his opponent could use storm force. 6 consecutive explosions. Boom! The arena where Chandigwa's feet landed suddenly shook and a crack appeared. The force made him lose his center of gravity and temporarily lose his balance. Lin Ke straightened his knees, and with the rebounding force of his stomp, he pounced forward and was in front of Chandigwa. He hurriedly stretched out his right palm, opened his fingers, and tried to grab Chandigwa's shoulder to complete the death sentence combo. Just as he was about to touch Chandigwa's shoulder, Chandigwa retracted his chi and blood in time and bent down to avoid being caught. Then he expanded his Dan force and was about to shake his arm to catch his enemy. The 14th move of the Wind sect, coil. But how could Lin Ke's death sentence be so simple? Failing to catch Chandigwa, Lin Ke immediately stepped forward and squatted down, bending his arm so that his elbow directly blocked Chandigwa's counterattack arm. His position was precisely the key point of the force. He neutralized the explosion of the dance stage with a normal move. Then, Lin Ke turned sideways and crashed into Chandigua like a meteorite falling to the ground. Here, the death sentence was no longer a closing move, but a connecting move in the middle. Bang! Chandigua barely blocked it with his arms and continued to retreat. Lin Ke slid forward and reached out his right arm again. It was the death sentence again. Seeing that his opponent's 5 fingers had fallen on his shoulder, Chandigua took a deep breath and visualized the roaring wind between heaven and earth. He infused his strength to all parts of his body. His muscles swelled as if they were full of gas. Lin Ke squeezed his fingers and they bounced back. How could the wind be caught? Just as he bounced back, Lin Ke leaned sideways again. This time, he used force concentration. His body grew taller, and he leaned forward with even more terrifying power than before. Bang! Chandigua retracted his arm and blocked in front of his body, but his stance was broken again. Because of the lack of new strength, he lost the feeling of floating. In this fight, Lin Ke's attacks were airtight like stormy waves, which made people feel that he could win at any time. However, Chandigua kept dodging and always survived. Even if he had exhausted all his skills, Lu Cheng and the others were still frightened. They were afraid that Lin Ke would be careless and let his opponent escape like the wind. In that case, there would be a hard fight in the future. Chandigua was indeed a veteran of the 7th pin. At this time, Lin Ke came forward for the 3rd time. He still stretched out his right arm and tried to connect with the death sentence. Chandigwa's center of gravity was unstable and his stance was broken. He had no other choice but to force his qi and blood to flow back and shrink his body in advance. At this time, Lin Ke, who had learned his lesson, turned his claw into a palm. With a swing of his elbow, he hit Chandigwa's shoulder. Chandigua trembled and his qi and blood dispersed. His force concentration failed. While Chandigua was trembling, Lin Ke opened his 5 fingers and finally grasped his shoulder. Then he visualized the scene of a meteor streaking across the sky and poured his strength into his opponent's body. It temporarily impacted his tendons and veins and disintegrated his opponent's resistance. Lin Ke pressed his elbow and jumped up with Chandigua in his hand. He slammed Chandigua to the ground. The 10th move of the fighting sect, death sentence. Bang! Dust and gravel flew everywhere. Chandigua was dizzy and felt pain all over his body. He couldn't move for a while. The loud voice of the referee echoed in his ears. Round 2, Lin Ke wins. Chapter 398. Beautiful. In the studio, Chen Sanqing slapped his thigh and praised loudly, as if he was a little excited. Amidst the crisp sound of flesh hitting flesh, the host, Lu Chang, inexplicably shuddered. He moved his thigh a little to prevent his partner from accidentally hitting the car. Then, he chuckled and said, "It's indeed not bad. Student Sanqing, can you hurry up and tell everyone what is beautiful? Timing, rhythm, connection, everything is beautiful. Lin Ke's dead end has reached a higher level." Chen Sanqing said with great praise, "Let me give you an example." When Lin Ke really caught Chandigua, he grasped the timing very well. If he instantly turned his claws into palms to slap his opponent, Chandigua could take the opportunity to lower his shoulders and use force concentration to completely neutralize Lin Ke's attack. If Lin Ke was a little late, Chandigwa's force concentration would have been completed and his qi, blood, and force would have started to shrink. Then Lin Ke's slap would have hit the air, which wouldn't have produced a good effect. So, it's not too early or too late? Lu Chang echoed in a rhetorical way. Chen Sanqing nodded and said, "Yes, this is the essence of the death tribulation. Once you are trapped in the tribulation, you will always be interrupted by Lin Ke's well-connected and well-timed combo attacks. You will never be able to break free and will only be able to cope with them. You can see this from the fact that the 10th move of the fighting sect is not the simplified physical invulnerability, but the death tribulation." Good, good. Lu Chang praised twice and then asked, "Sanqing, how much strength do you think Lin Ke has left? Can he defeat Jiang Kongchan, who is the last fighter in the capital? It's hard to say. Chen Sanqing shook his head and smiled. It's not that I don't dare to judge or predict. Anyway, since I've been a guest commentator, I'm used to it. It's just that I really can't make a prediction, because neither Lin Ke nor Jiang Kongchan has shown their full strength in the past 2 months. That's right. Lin Ke won the previous few matches with ease, and Jiang Kongchan didn't fight much. Lu Chang nodded slightly. But now Lin Ke seems to have consumed a lot of energy. The director switched the screen to the scene and showed Lin Ke in the arena. He was sweating profusely and his hair was half wet. He was panting and adjusting his qi circulation. Jiang Kongchan is no match for Jiang Kongchan. Yes, Chandigua is not easy to deal with. He is the second most powerful of all the second generals. Lin Ke is lucky that he still has 30% or 40% of his strength left. Jiang Kongchan entered the Dan stage at the end of the year and was a disciple of the Kongtong school. She got the inheritance of the Wind sect. Although it is not the core content of the Wind sect, it is enough for her to enter the stage of rapid progress. Now that more than 2 months have passed, it is hard to say how powerful she is. Well, the fact that the capital chose her instead of Jiang Jingfeng shows that she is at least a little stronger than ordinary professional 8th pin fighters, Chen Sanqing said quickly. After breaking through to a higher realm, almost all martial artists would experience a period of rapid progress due to the difference in their cultivation levels and cultivation methods. Lu Cheng, Lin Ke, Ren Li, and Peng Liyun were all like this. Chen Sanqing believed that Jiang Kongchan would be no exception, but at most she would not experience such a great improvement. So, Jiang Kongchan has a good chance of winning. Songqing University is in danger. Lu Chang said thoughtfully. Before he finished his words, he suddenly laughed. It's funny now that you mention it. The capital is the backyard of the Kongtong school. Why are they all disciples of the Kongtong school? Not all of them. Jiang Jingfeng is not. Chen Sanqing said with a smile, with Ren Li here, once there are talented young warriors, no school can compete with the Kongtong school. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. But Shanbei is not like that. Lu Chang subconsciously retorted. That's because Fang Zhirong had inherited the Wind sect before he entered the school. Su Wanyan's martial arts strength has been stagnant, except for the improvement of his supernatural ability. How could he be chosen by the Shangqing sect? Even so, he is now an outsider of the Shangqing sect. The martial arts club of each school is different. The members are different. We can't generalize. As soon as Chen Sanqing finished his words, the director switched the screen back to the scene. The third round was about to begin. Phew. When Lin Ke finally caught Chandigua and threw him to the ground, Lu Cheng was secretly relieved. He felt ashamed that he had doubted his brother-in-law's impromptu performance. But then again, the death sentence is really interesting. Phew. Yen Jika didn't hide her reaction. She patted her chest and heaved a long sigh of relief. Joy flashed in her eyes, but soon she became worried. She lowered her voice and asked, Cheng, how much strength do you think my brother has left? Lu Cheng looked at Lin Ke in the arena and put his head close to his girlfriend's ear. Didn't I fight with your brother before the national championship? His limit is 7 consecutive explosions. Lu Cheng's breath was a little short because of the influence of the hidden fragrance in his body. But with his strong body and vigorous metabolism, he had completely recovered and didn't need to receive treatment. My brother just did a sextuple explosion and a few scattered bursts. He also used force and combos. Yen Jika rolled her eyes and counted with her fingers. Can he still do 2 or 3 force concentrations? The difficulty of the Dan stage consecutive explosion was gradually stacked. Lin Ke, who could perform 7 consecutive explosions, could perform 2 5 consecutive explosions. However, once he performed 6 consecutive explosions, he would definitely not be able to perform 4 consecutive explosions. It could only be said that he was more than capable of performing 3 consecutive explosions. Taking into account the other consumption during such a long and fierce battle, the result could be imagined. Lu Qing thought for a while and comforted him. Previously, it was just an exchange of pointers. We didn't fight to the death. Your brother should still have some potential. Moreover, it's been more than half a month. It's not like your brother hasn't been practicing martial arts or participating in the challenge tournament. He should have made some progress. I'm guessing that it won't be a problem for him to do another double explosion and 1 or 2 scattered force concentrations. In this aspect, he's about the same as those who have just entered the Dan stage. This is a situation where he doesn't use his force. And one is tired and in bad condition, while the other is just in the arena. He's in his prime in all aspects. Yenjika puffed up her cheeks with worry and nervousness in her eyes. Lu Qing chuckled and grabbed the girl's hand. In a real battle, there are too many factors to win. You have to trust your brother. He has a good chance of winning. Even if he loses in the end, he'll definitely exhaust Jiang Kongchan. While speaking, Lu Qing also felt a little uneasy. Jiang Kongchan's specific level was still unknown. He only knew that she had entered the Dan stage after the Spring Festival, and her previous few fights were quite normal, not revealing her true strength. Yenjika was about to say something, but suddenly she pursed her lips because she saw Jiang Kongchan enter the arena. The 3rd round was about to begin. Boo hoo hoo, I'm so nervous, so nervous. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Brahman was shivering. What are you afraid of? At worst, you'll lose. It's good enough that you're in the top 4. Unparalleled Dragon King deliberately made a joke and replied with a "be strong" emoji. Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling appeared and said, "Go away. I don't have such an elder." Boo hoo hoo, I don't want to see Lu Cheng's efforts in vain. All the good names are taken by dogs, and others surfaced and expressed a sigh. Then they sank and turned their eyes to the broadcast screen. The 3rd round was about to begin. In the seats of Capital Academy, when Shindigwa was grabbed and slammed to the ground, the cute Jiang Kongchan didn't immediately stand up. She still put her hands together and stared at the arena attentively. It seemed that she still had some hope that senior brother Chen could be saved. When the referee announced the result, she sighed and left her seat. At this time, Renli, who had recovered from the concussion internal injury, waved her fist and shouted like a cheerleader, "Little Chan, come on. Kong-chan, don't be nervous. Do your best. You can win." The calm Shinyu encouraged her. Jiang Kong-chan covered her mouth and laughed. "Senior brother Shen, I'm not nervous. I've been tortured by senior sisters one situation after another every day. No, I've been trained to be calm even if Mount Tai collapses in front of me." "I won't be happy if you say that," Renli muttered. She was very concerned about the result, but she didn't show it. Instead, she cooperated with Jiang Kongchan by joking. While talking, Jiang Kongchan took a deep breath and strode to the stone steps. On the way, she met Chindigua, who was in pain and dizzy from the fall. Chindigua punched her with his fist and reminded her in a low voice, "Don't be scared. Lin K may not be able to defeat you in a head-on fight now." The last few rounds gave him a general idea of Lin K's current state. "Okay." Jiang Kongchan nodded hard, put away all kinds of thoughts, and quickly approached the arena. When she stood in front of Lin K, she had already made up her mind. She couldn't be scared, nor could she underestimate him. She didn't have to worry about being defeated by Lin K quickly, nor did she think that he had reached his limit and that she could defeat him in a few rounds. She would play what she was good at and fight as usual. The referee looked around and didn't waste any more time. He raised his hand and waved down, shouting loudly, "Start." The 3rd round officially began. In the cheers of the audience, Lin K moved. He pounced like a cheetah, swept across the distance of 7 or 8 meters, and attacked his opponent first. Seeing this, Jiang Kongchan was relieved and in awe. She was relieved because Lin Kei had consumed a lot of energy and didn't want to attack with the explosion of the dance stage and the sound of the attainment formula at the beginning. She was in awe because his opponent was very aggressive and didn't show any weakness. Jiang Kongchan took a step forward. Her body movements were as light as the wind, and after a clever turn, she avoided the front and flashed to the side of her opponent. Lin Kei suddenly stopped and turned the kinetic energy into impact force in the trembling muscles and fascia of his body. He swung his arm to the right, which echoed with a muffled sound like thunder. Just as he was about to make a move, Jiang Kongchan used her absolute reaction. She drifted backward lightly, touched the ground with her tiptoes, and immediately bounced forward. Her arm rushed up and her fist shot out like lightning. Whoosh! Jiang Kongchan blocked Lin Kei's counterpunch with a punch. With a sharp sound of friction, Jiang Kongchan blocked Lin Kei's counterpunch. Bang! Both of their bodies swayed at the same time, and Jiang Kongchan showed a look of joy. Lin Kei's strength had dropped to the same level as hers. Chapter 399. Although the strength of the two sides was still at the same level, one of them was exhausted after a long battle and was deteriorating faster and faster, while the other had just entered the arena and was in peak physical condition, which could be maintained for a while. It was obvious who had the upper hand and who was in a difficult situation. With this thought in mind, Jiang Kongchan's courage was boosted. Her momentum soared in an instant, and she gained the upper hand in this subtle confrontation. Just as her right fist returned to its original position, a burst of energy burst out from her left shoulder. She thrust her arm, forearm, and wrist forward one after another and straightened up like a big spear. With a bang, her fist shot toward the enemy's side, aiming straight for his temple. Lin Kei's counterpunch was blocked, so he immediately pulled back his right foot and turned his body so that his face was facing Jiang Kongchan. Then he raised his left arm in front of his chest and hit his opponent's fist in a semi-defensive manner. At this moment, Jiang Kongchan stepped to the left and flashed to the enemy's side again. Then she forcibly changed the direction of her left fist and made it deviate from its original trajectory, but the target was still the same. At this moment, the strength of her fist had been exhausted. She suddenly drove her joints, stretched her fascia, and flicked her 5 fingers toward Lin Kei's temple with abrupt force. This was the dance stage version of Wuthering 8 movements, which combined the 8 movements and gave rise to many changes. The most prominent feature was called wind generated by footsteps. This wasn't to describe the swiftness and agility of the body movements of this martial art. Instead, it meant that the core of the fighting style was under the feet, in the footwork, so as to command the body. Then, the body would pull and change the direction of the fist and palm, making the attack unpredictable and rather restrained the absolute reaction. Even if a dance stage martial artist could detect the sudden change of target within a short distance, he wouldn't be able to make a good response in time. Although Jiang Kongchan had confirmed Lin Kei's exhaustion and boosted her confidence, she was never one to get carried away easily. She still remembered her opponent's true strength and knew that he still had the strength to launch 1, 2, or even 3 attacks. Therefore, she decided to use the dance stage version of the Wuthering 8 movements to fight. She planned to use the dangerous guerrilla warfare to gradually wear down her opponent and wear him down. This fighting style was called Thorns in Gentleness and Needles Hidden in Cotton. Pa! When Jiang Kongchan flicked her 5 fingers, Lin Kei felt a sharp pain in his temples and subconsciously tilted his head to the other side to avoid the attack. Then, he lifted his shoulder and swung his elbow, turning his right palm into a knife and poked his opponent's pulse with this tip. Jiang Kongchan immediately retracted her left arm, arched her body slightly, and stepped forward with her right foot, aiming at the enemy's ankle joint. At the same time, she hit her right fist at her waist and threw it out quietly like a chilly wind, aiming at her opponent's waist. Her attack was so smooth that it was like the continuous sound of wind in the wilderness. Moreover, her killing moves were hidden and deadly. Lin Kei took a deep breath, shifted his center of gravity to the left, and moved his body horizontally, just in time to avoid the girl's consecutive attacks. As soon as the tip of his foot touched the ground, he immediately exerted his strength and turned his body into a falling meteorite, fiercely crashing into his opponent. However, Jiang Kongchan had long since missed her target. She tapped her right foot on the ground and nimbly dodged to the side. She was still using the dance stage version of the Wuthering 8 movements. Not bad. In the live broadcast room, Chen Sanqing praised, "She really has the charm of the wind. She can make such an effect out of a wind sect kung fu that is not very powerful. In the past 5 years, only Ren Li is stronger than her at the same level and stage." This was not referring to her strength, but to her mastery of the essence of martial arts. That's right. I still remember when Ren Li had just reached rank 8. When the weak challenged the strong, her figure was really like the wind, whistling continuously, and unpredictable. The host, Lu Chang, echoed. This was the way to fight the weak against the strong. In the previous battle, Ren Li had regarded him as an equal opponent, so she didn't use this method. Instead, she seized the initiative to seize the initiative and gain the upper hand. While the host and the guest commentator were talking, Jiang Kongchan and Lin Ke had already exchanged many moves, and the sound of clapping could be heard constantly. No, Lin Ke can't go on like this. Chen Sanqing smacked his lips. Whether he just wanted to show his weakness to lure Jiang Kongchan into making a mistake or not, he has to change his way of fighting now. If it goes on like this, Jiang Kongchan will only tire him out. The girl with the round face was indeed cautious and patient, and she didn't show any sign of fear. Before his voice had died away, Jiang Kongchan slid to the back of Lin Ke and shook her right arm, which turned into a big spear. She tore through the air and pointed it at the back of Lin Ke's head. However, Lin Ke didn't respond according to the normal way. He just lowered his head and stepped forward with his left foot. An opportunity. As a martial artist, how could she let go of such a flaw? Jiang Kongchan instinctively shook her shoulder and turned the spear poke into a hammer strike. She swung her arm down at the back of Lin Ke's neck. Lin Ke's posture was so perfect that he couldn't hold it in any longer and had to give him a punch. At this moment, Lin Ke suddenly withdrew his qi, blood, strength, spirit, and other senses along with the movement of stepping forward. His whole body suddenly became empty. Following which, his dantian exploded and rushed to his neck. In an instant, it swelled up and became extremely terrifying. It was as if a serpent had turned into a dragon. Puff! Jiang Kongchan's hammer strike seemed to hit a rubber ball full of water, and she couldn't find a way to penetrate it. At this moment, Lin Ke suddenly raised his head, straightened his neck, and shook off Jiang Kongchan's fist, which prevented her from continuing her attack. At the same time, his body trembled, and he channeled all the strength he had and burrowed into his right foot. Then he suddenly stomped backward and plowed the ground. The 16th move of the fighting sect, earth-splitting. Clang! Jiang Kongchan, who hadn't had time to swim away, shook violently under her feet. A crack expanded in all directions and a majestic force gushed out, which made her unable to stabilize her body and was about to fall backward. Damn! Jiang Kongchan didn't dare to hide her strength anymore. She immediately withdrew her qi and blood to maintain her center of gravity, and then she swelled her muscles and threw a blast punch forward, which made a roaring sound. At this critical moment, she didn't defend herself and counterattacked. After Lin Ke's successful attack, he immediately took advantage of the rebound force under his feet, turned around fiercely, and swung his right arm. Bang! A muffled explosion echoed around. Although Lin Ke had borrowed strength, he still couldn't bear the power of Jiang Kongchan's dance stage explosion. His body swayed backward, as if he was about to retreat. But at this time, his muscles and fascia trembled again, and he immediately withdrew his qi, blood, and spirit to connect the force concentration with the yin-yang twist technique. Boom! He took half a step forward, swung his arm quickly, and hit his opponent in the explosion of qi. Wait a little longer. Let's waste one more time of Lin Ke's dance stage explosion. Thinking quickly, Jiang Kongchan had no other choice but to do the force concentration and drive her left fist with the double explosion. Bang! The sound of the collision was loud. Jiang Kongchan was slightly inferior to Lin Ke, who had borrowed strength, so she took a step back and bounced back a few meters. Of course, Lin Ke wouldn't let go of this opportunity. He raised his hands, visualized the ancient characters, and said in a low voice, "Okay." As his voice echoed, he rushed to Jiang Kongchan like a flash of lightning. In an instant, he was in front of his opponent. Once again, he withdrew his qi, blood, strength, spirit, and all kinds of feelings and made an explosive blow like a meteor falling to the ground. When this move broke Jiang Kongchan's stance, it was time for the death sentence to take effect. Because Lin Ke had already used the double explosion, Jiang Kongchan temporarily didn't have the strength to do the dance stage concentration again. She took a deep breath, adjusted her muscles, fascia, and internal organs, and visualized the corresponding scene. Bang! She met the enemy with a straight punch. Boom! As if a bomb had exploded on the spot, Jiang Kongchan's attack barely penetrated the air and blocked Lin Ke's fist. Her blue and black veins bulged. She couldn't bear the terrible strength of her opponent. Her arms bounced off and her body swayed. She lost her stance and stumbled back a few steps. Lin Ke was about to slide forward and reach out his right palm to connect with the death sentence, but suddenly he felt his body was weak and his breath was short. This is the plague sect force? Has she mastered the force? Moreover, Jiang Kongchan had just entered the dance stage 2 months ago and didn't have any supernatural ability. Even if she could master the force, she wouldn't have time to master more than one force. In other words, she didn't major in the wind sect and minor in the plague sect. Instead, her major in the plague sect and minor in the wind sect. Lin Ke's pupils constricted. He felt his body was weak and couldn't move forward for a short time. With his physical quality, even at the beginning of the battle, he wouldn't be completely weak after being hit by the plague sect force, let alone when he was in his best condition. He could easily solve it with a force concentration. But now, he had made 3 dance stage outbursts. Although they weren't consecutive, he was close to his limit. Naturally, he couldn't bear such a degree of erosion. If it were pain or trauma, he could bear it. But this kind of negative state was not something he could force himself to continue attacking. Moreover, he couldn't use force concentration to weaken the effect for a while, because this was a type of consecutive outbursts. After 3 outbursts, he couldn't make any more consecutive outbursts. While Lin Ke was stuck, Jiang Kongchan adjusted her body with the skill, mercurial balance. She regained her balance and stopped retreating. She didn't continue to fight. Instead, she tightened and released her foot and shot forward like lightning. She rushed to her opponent's side and seized this rare opportunity to kick out her right foot. Lin Ke barely raised his leg to block the kick. Jiang Kongchan took advantage of this opportunity to jump up again. Her body was half floating in the air and she kicked out continuously. The 27th move of the wind sect, tornado. Bang, bang, bang. After a few kicks, the weak Lin Ke couldn't find a chance to use force concentration and was kicked out of his stance by his opponent. The referee pressed down on Jiang Kongchan's shoulder, stopping her continuous kicks, and said loudly, "Mississippi, round 3, Jiang Kongchan wins." Phew, it seems that Jiang Kongchan has practiced the plague sex force. If she had practiced the wind sex force, Lin Ke would have been able to hold on for a while and finish her off with the death sentence. What a surprise. Chen Sanqing sighed. Songqing University is in danger. Jiang Kongchan has consumed a lot of energy, but she can at least make one dance stage outburst and use the plague sect force several times. It's very, very difficult for a top professional 9th pin fighter to win. Being able to use force was one of the signs of a 7th pin fighter. As long as Jiang Kongchan's physical quality was up to standard, she could get a 7th pin certificate. Therefore, Chen Sanqing watched Songqing University carefully. Chapter 400. While Chen Sanqing was lamenting, He Xiaowei posted a message on Weibo, I told you. Songqing University's substitute is too weak. How can they beat the capital? Horses can make mistakes, and people can make mistakes. I made a few wrong predictions, and you called me a bad healer. Now you believe that I'm actually very reliable, right? Sometimes. In the front row, someone laughed through tears. Below him, there were a series of similar comments. Finished. I'm going to the rooftop after this cigarette, let's go together. Wait for me. Won't it be lonely to have a companion on the road? All-knowing man in ganghood, who had been silent for a while, also updated his Weibo at this time. Everyone has good and bad moments, and martial artists are no exception. Ren Li's performance today was indeed a little problematic, but the final result will not change. What he meant was that Lu Cheng's tie with Ren Li, who was not in good condition, did not mean that he could be compared with her. As for whether Ren Li's condition was good or bad, there was a lot to say. Who didn't know how to nitpick? If someone was serious about it, he could use the final result to fight back. No one scolded him for being shameless under this Weibo, because Yan Shaoling and the others were worried about the fourth and final match in the fan forum. 555. Are we really going to lose? Brahman sent an emoji of drawing circles in the corner. I don't know. Eternal Nightfall sent an emoji of tears. I'm going to make a wish. If we can beat the capital today, I'll insist on waking up early for 1 month. Hey, did you skip all the classes in the morning? Unparalleled Dragon King asked in surprise. Yan Shaoling sent an emoji of a tired smile. We chose the classes on our own. Thank you. Except for the martial arts class, the first class in the morning was moved to the afternoon or evening. But that's not the point. The point is that you have to make a wish with me and pray that we can beat the capital. Why bother? It's normal to lose to the capital. It's normal to win or lose in a match like this. Road to the arena interrupted. As a martial artist who practiced Wuthering 8 movements, he had always considered himself half an outer sect disciple of Kong Tong school. When watching today's match, it was obvious which side he supported. No. I don't remember who told me that if a martial artist is calm about defeat and doesn't feel pain, then he is already numb to winning and losing. He no longer has a strong heart. Knocking on a wooden fish expression, said Brahman. As a fan, as a supporter, we have to do the same. If we don't feel sad about their loss, it means that we don't love them enough. Clap, 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 clap. Well said. Every time this happened, Yan Shaoling was always at a loss for words. Hurry up and line up to make a wish. If Songqing University wins tonight, I'll run around the bathroom naked again. All the good names are taken by dogs, said. Bull Demon King said jokingly, if Songqing University wins tonight, I'll abstain from sex for a week. I'll quit barbecuing for half a month. Unparalleled Dragon King joined in the fun. Seeing that everyone was making their wishes, Yan Shaoling heaved a sigh of relief and tagged, a lot of cats. Box, no, cat reporter in front, are you nervous? Do you have any insider information? A lot of cats didn't reply in time because the atmosphere in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seats was so tense that everyone forgot to play with their phones. Lu Qing stood up with Yan Zheke and deliberately laughed. What kind of cheering method do you need? Just tell me, I'll definitely do it, even if it's a Hawaiian rock hula dance. He was trying to relieve his girlfriend's nervousness and stress with this kind of gag. Yan Zheke laughed in a nasal voice and took a deep breath to encourage herself. If I win, you have to massage me until I fall asleep tonight. No touching or taking advantage of me. Okay, no problem. Good luck. Seize the opportunity and you'll have a chance to win. Lu Qing answered without hesitation and reached out his hand to give the girl a handshake. Okay. Yan Zheke nodded hard. She didn't waste any more time and didn't high-five Li Mao, Kai Zongming, and the others one by one. She just turned sideways and waved her fist at them. Yan Zheke stepped forward and walked towards the stone stairs to welcome Lin Kei, who was coming back. In the Capital College Martial Arts Club seats, Chandigua exhaled like a bellows and sighed, "It's not easy." If Xiaochan hadn't practiced the plague sect force, she would have lost to Lin Kei and her last year of college martial arts career would have ended with regret. Fortunately, Kong Chan can't be careless. Shen Yu, who was next to Chandigua, stood in front of the seat with her arms crossed and said to herself worriedly, "Xiaochan is always cautious." Renli drank the kanjiuan and soup which was used to regulate the internal organs and focused her beautiful eyes on the arena. Hearing this, Chandigua nodded in agreement. Yes. Although Xiaochan likes to act cute and sometimes looks dull, she is very serious and steady in her work. As long as she is not careless, she has a good chance of winning the professional 9th pin. Well, you said Xiaochan is dull. Renli remembered the key point and kept her eyes on the arena. When Yanjika got into the arena quickly, the main force and substitutes of the Capital College Martial Arts Club suddenly quieted down and seemed to have lost the ability to speak. This round would decide who would stay and who would leave, who would laugh and who would cry. In the stands, the audience was happy, sad, and emotional. Their cheers had weakened a lot. Ding Yisun, a double fan, was so nervous that she didn't dare to look at the arena anymore. She shrank to Chiu Hailin's side and buried her head in her shoulder. "Is it necessary?" Chiu Hailin asked with amusement. When she spoke, her heart was beating fast. She couldn't tell whether she was nervous about her alma mater or her classmates. "Yes. When I think about it, I think about how the loser will have to bid farewell to this place with regret. No matter how much effort I put in, how much sweat I put in, how much youth I had, I feel so sad and nervous. This is too cruel, too cruel." Ding Yisun spoke eloquently. She was a student of the Chinese department of Capital College. A hipster's heart. Du Yi hit the nail on the head. There was fear in her eyes, as if she couldn't bear to see the final sadness. In the live broadcast room, the host Lu Chang, who had watched the stands and the seats of the martial arts club, sighed and said, "This is the cruelty of the knockout game. There can only be one winner. The loser has to leave and come back next year. Maybe they will miss it forever. Maybe they will regret it forever." Chen Sanqing echoed emotionally. Lu Chang wanted to create suspense, so he asked, "Sanqing, do you really think Songqing University has no hope?" "Not really. There is still hope, but it's not that big. It depends on the performance of both sides." Chen Sanqing thought for a while and said, "To be honest, Jiang Kongchan has consumed a lot of energy. The force of the plague sect can only be exerted when it hits the target. Besides, after Lin Kei's meteor blast, there may still be some shock left. If Lu Cheng or Lin Kei before the Dan stage fought against her now, they would have a good chance to win, just like Wei Xingtian and Zhou Jingquan when they were tired and injured. Unfortunately, Yanjika is not them before the Dan stage." Before he could finish his words, he stopped abruptly because the director cut the screen to the seats of the martial arts club on both sides. Lu Cheng, Renli, Lin Kei, Chandigua, and the others stood up respectively, holding hands with their substitutes, and stood in a row facing the arena. They were cheering for their teammates, showing that no matter whether they won or lost, they would never walk alone. They were also praying to God together. The atmosphere instantly became solemn, and it became even more heavy and tense. "Well, let's enjoy the final performance of Songqing University or Capital College in this national competition." The host Lu Chang sighed. At this time, Yanjika stood in front of Jiang Kongchan in the arena. She lowered her center of gravity and got into a fighting posture. Jiang Kongchan seized the last moment to do breathing exercises. Her face was slightly pale and her lips were dark blue. Obviously, the previous fight and the force of the plague sect had put her under a lot of pressure. The referee glanced at the girls on both sides, raised his right hand, and shouted loudly, "Start." The fourth round began. The last round of Songqing University or Capital College began. Jiang Kongchan swung her center of gravity forward and swept toward Yanjika. Her steps were light and agile, and she walked like the wind. She wanted to take the initiative to attack and chase her opponent with wind steps. When she found a gap, she would completely suppress her opponent with martial arts such as tornado and create an opportunity for her opponent to take her weakening force head-on. At the same time, she could still perform one force concentration in case of accidents. Yenjika didn't stay in the same place like a fool. She retreated to the side like an antelope and then circled around Jiang Kongchan, trying to fight her. One was chasing and the other was dodging. The two figures seemed to be dancing on the arena. Gradually, Jiang Kongchan, who had the upper hand in all aspects, changed her direction continuously with mercurial balance and shortened the distance between them bit by bit. Finally, after a ghostly turn, she locked on to Yenjika and approached her opponent. She tightened the muscles of her right leg and was about to kick her. At this moment, her clear eyes reflected the beautiful girl's figure. She raised her hands and formed an extremely familiar hand seal. Oh no! Jiang Kongchan's pupils shrank rapidly. She heard a low but pleasant voice, "Army." The army formula of the 9 words formula. Lin Ke had been taught the attainment formula, so how could Yenjika not have practiced the 9 words formula? She had not only practiced the attainment formula, but also the swordsman formula and the army formula. Lu Qing wanted his girlfriend to master it as soon as possible. He even asked his master to borrow the original copies of the army formula and the swordsman formula. He didn't use his own inferior copies. Yenjika, who hadn't shown much in the previous matches, took the risk to use this move when Jiang Kongchan was close to her. Otherwise, with her willpower and spirit, if she used it from a distance, the powerful enemy would recover quickly and there would be no chance for her to attack. Army. A cold and sharp mind invaded Jiang Kongchan's mind. She felt like being pointed at by long swords and steel knives. Her mind was on the verge of collapse. She wanted to scream and beg for mercy. Now is the time. Yenjika visualized a meteor streaking across the sky in his mind. His temples suddenly bulged, and he swung his right arm quickly, throwing out a punch. The meteor force of the fighting sect. Yes, I can't reach the Dan stage, but I can make other things the best of a professional 9th pin. My brother can practice the meteor force before the Dan stage, so can I haven't wasted any time in all these months. Bang! She threw a punch. A strong wind was blowing. Jiang Kongchan woke up from the shock and hurriedly raised her arms to block. Then she tried to use the force concentration to resolve all the accidents. Boom! She seemed to be hit directly by the impact of the bomb. The remaining shock in her body was stimulated. Her chi and blood were tumbling, her organs were shaking, and her mind was buzzing. Her thought of condensing her force was interrupted. Yenjika shook her left arm and threw it out, stopping in front of Jiang Kongchan's throat. The referee opened his mouth slightly and then raised his right hand. He said loudly, "Round 4, Yenjika wins." The final result is Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Yenjika was relieved. If she couldn't win with this combo, she probably couldn't win today. After she was relieved, she was ecstatic. She turned around and waved her fist at her teammates who hadn't reacted yet. I won. Everyone was silent. Chapter 401. Round 4, Yenjika wins. The final result is Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Lu Cheng and Lin Ke were mentally prepared to respond to Yenjika's excited punches. Kai Zongming, Li Mao, and the others in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seats were at a loss. They couldn't believe that Yenjika had won. In their minds, even if Yenjika could defeat Jiang Kongchan, it must have been a tough battle. How could she win so easily? The sudden surprise made it difficult for them to return to their senses for a short while, and they were unable to enjoy the joy of victory in time. They were like this, and so were the spectators in the stands. They forgot to shout, to cheer, and to cheer. The whole place was silent. This is not scientific. What happened to Jiang Kongchan's strength? How could she lose so quickly? She lost so easily without any resistance. Wait, Yenjika from Songqing University also knows the 9 syllables. She is the real secret weapon. In the live broadcast room, Chen Sanqing was silent for more than 10 seconds. Then he blurted out, army syllables? Yenjika has also learned the 9 syllables? Yeah, how come everyone in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club knows this kind of secret skill? The host, Lu Chang, was still in a state of confusion. Which sect or force would not cherish secret arts of the level of the 9 syllables? Why would they not teach them to non-core disciples? Is the Songqing University Martial Arts Club going to enter communism? Chen Sanqing took a deep breath and was also puzzled. We just said that the capital is the back garden of the Kongtong sect. Then what is Songqing University? I don't know. Lu Chang spread out his hands. He still couldn't digest the dramatic ending of the match. Except for shock, there was no sadness or joy. In the Capital Academy Martial Arts Club's seating area, Chandigua also had a similar feeling. Sitting there, he stared blankly at the ring. He saw Jiang Kongchan standing still and Yan Jika cheering and waving her fists excitedly. In his eyes, all the colors faded quickly. The two figures seemed to have become characters in a black and white silent film, so distant and so illusory. One. Just like that? In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling posted in confusion. It's not that I don't understand, it's just that this world is changing too fast. It's so surreal. Brahman said with a confused expression. The surprise was so great that he couldn't find the feeling for a while. At this moment, many cats surfaced and replied to Yan Xiaoling's previous question with a disdainful emoji. Do you think I'm nervous? I almost laughed out loud. After hearing her words, Yan Xiaoling instantly regained her senses and returned to reality. She quickly typed on the keyboard and said, "Ha ha ha ha, I should have thought of this earlier. Ha ha ha, Lin K has already mastered the attainment formula." With Senior Yan's relationship with Lu Cheng, how could she not have mastered it? Ha ha ha, I was also stupid, I was nervous for nothing. Ha ha ha, I'm so happy. I'm going to wake up early tomorrow. Wake up early. Not bad. Looks like making a wish is still effective. I'll also officially abstain from sex for a week. Oh, my girlfriend went on a business trip yesterday. 10 days. Bull Demon King said with a funny face. Unparalleled Dragon King said, Yenjika took a risk just now. She waited until Jiang Kongchan was so close to her before she used the army formula. If she was nervous, she would have been kicked by Jiang Kongchan and wouldn't have had time to use her secret skill. He was still thinking about the battle just now. He felt that the way Yenjika used the army formula was a bit familiar. Her arms moved quickly and her punch was like a meteor. Moreover, it caused Jiang Kongchan's muscles to tremble obviously. It was exactly the same as Lin K's. Ha ha ha, don't worry about these details. Quick, unparalleled Dragon King, throw away your barbecue. And, the student running naked, run away. Yan Shaoling was so excited that she was almost incoherent. Let me finish the last string of kidney and then start my fast. Unparalleled Dragon King said with a sigh. Yan Shaoling didn't care at all and continued to say, ha ha ha, I feel like I'll be very busy later. I have to manage everyone's posts, keep an eye on the old driver, see what kind of car he drives, watch the toxic milk commentator, laugh at the all-knowing man, and like all the comments praising Songqing University and Lu Cheng. I'm so busy. At this time, under the Weibo post of superstitious thoughts are not, comments sprung up like bamboo shoots after a rain. I actually doubted sect leader He's ability to heal poison. I repent, I apologize. 3 incense sticks, first to congratulate sect leader, second to congratulate sect leader, third to congratulate sect leader, and third to congratulate sect leader for joining the toxic milk sect. You'll follow the law and reverse the cause and effect. Sect leader I beg you, please scold me. Just say that you're a playboy who plays games and watches competitions every day. How can you pass the exam? Hey, friends on the rooftop, you can come down now. You yelled, too late. Compared to He Xiaowei's humorous comments, the all-knowing man in ganghood had a different style. Eternal Nightfall sent a dancing emoji. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, I'll just laugh. I won't say anything. Catch the guy upstairs. Replied Wonton Seller with a cat head emoji. Brahman 001 inch replied, laughing out loud expression, Lu Cheng's fans are here for a visit. Songqing University's fans are following closely behind. Squeeze, squeeze. Passengers who don't want to follow the group line up here. Seeing these, the blood vessels on the forehead of all-knowing man in ganghood jumped. He swiped his finger and directly deleted the first few posts. Then he turned off his computer, muted his phone, quit the app, and stayed away from electronic products. After the limelight, he was a good man again. On the arena, Yan Zhika excitedly saluted Jiang Kongchan, turned around and ran back to the seats to share the joy with Lu Cheng and the others. Although she had been telling herself to be reserved and ladylike, she couldn't help but feel a little excited. At this time, she suddenly heard the silence in the arena being broken. Voices converged into a torrent and rang in her ears. Yan Zhika! Yan Zhika! Yan Zhika subconsciously slowed down and looked around blankly. This was the first time that she had received such warm and surging cheers as the winner of a crucial match. The audience had come back to their senses. They naturally had a good impression of the weak who defeated the strong. Moreover, Yan Zhika was such a beautiful and clean girl. Yan Zhika! Yan Zhika! The cheers were louder and louder, making the girl feel excited. Her whole body was overflowing with the feeling of, I'm so happy. She raised her hands above her head and applauded in all directions. Her footwork quickened again and she ran to the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. She couldn't wait to share all this with Silly Cheng. Lu Cheng and the others had already walked up to her hand in hand. Like a surging wave, they surrounded Yan Zhika in the center and confused the others. Among them, Lu Cheng was very excited and his expression was overflowing. Lin Ke was a little stiff because he was not used to such close contact with others, but the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up. The girl took a step forward and hugged Lu Cheng fiercely. Then she came back to her senses and bumped fists with Lin Ke, Kai Zongming, and Lin Hua one by one. We won. We won. They were all smiles and seemed to have forgotten other words. They just repeated the word, we won, over and over again. Yes, we won. We won the capital with difficulty. Yes, we won. We entered the finals. Looking at Yan Zhika's excited back in the celebrating crowd of Songqing University, Jiang Kongchan felt a sense of loss. Her heart felt empty, as if it was missing a piece. It was better not to touch it, but as long as she touched it, a dull pain would spread out. She had not only mastered the army formula, but also practiced the meteor force of the fighting sect. If it was only one of the two, the force concentration she had reserved in case of accidents would be enough to solve the problem. Who knew that things would always develop in the worst direction? Jiang Kongchan took a breath and puffed up her cheeks to restrain her urge to cry. When she flew away from the sad place and returned to the seats of the Capital College Martial Arts Club, Renli had already come to her. She was no longer confused and reached out her hands to hug her. Smelling the faint orchid fragrance and feeling the warm embrace of Renli, Jiang Kongchan couldn't hold back anymore. She buried her face in Renli's shoulder and tears overflowed from her eyes. I'm sorry, Senior. I'm sorry. She sobbed. It's okay. It's okay. Renli looked forward and patted her back. Senior Brother Chin, this is the last year. Jiang Kongchan choked with sobs. Hearing this, Chindigua wanted to comfort the girl with the round face and tell her that he could bear it, but when the words came to his mouth, he was too sad to say anything. He looked sideways at Renli and saw that her big eyes were covered with a layer of fog, full of obvious pain and loss. As a heavenly son of the age, there are also regrets that are difficult to make up for. Chindigua understood and sighed to himself. He walked to the stands where the supporters of the Capital College Martial Arts Club were, raised his hands high, and gently clapped as he moved sideways to bid farewell to his teammates. Someone started, and the supporters shouted his name like they always did in the previous competitions. Chindigua. Chindigua. The familiar scene and familiar cheers made Chindigua forget the maxim that men should bleed but not cry. His eyes became wet and his nose seemed to be blocked, but he still insisted on finishing his farewell. I'm sorry that I couldn't bring you a champion. I'm sorry that I can't fight for this championship anymore. Looking at his regretful back, Ding Yisan cried very sadly. She shouted with the audience around her, Chindigua, Chindigua. Beside her, Chiu Hailin, Dui, and the others were also inexplicably sad and cried. Maybe they were just there to join in the fun, but the sadness and tears were unforgettable. Goodbye, Capital. Goodbye, Chindigua. In a dimly lit locker room, the closed door was suddenly opened. A young man who looked like a student shouted before he entered, Songqing University won. Songqing University entered the final competition. Following his words, the dazzling light outside shone in and the whole room became bright. A clean and refreshing young man woke up from his state of mind. Songqing University. He whispered to himself. Chapter 402. After a few minutes, Lu Qing, Yenjika, and the others returned to the locker room. Renli, Chindigua, and the others left dejectedly. The cheers and shouts of the audience only lingered in the air. The staff seized the time to repair the arena. They brought in some bluestones and used some other materials to make the arena flat again. After some work, the second semi-final match began. Shanbei vs. Guangnan. Under the huge pressure, Jin Huanqing displayed his strongest level, showing a mental state that surpassed the previous situation. Unfortunately, his opponent was called Peng Liyun, and after a long bitter battle, he was still defeated helplessly. Peng Liyun continued to work hard, and narrowly defeated Shi Meng, completing a 1 vs 2, before leaving the stage, leaving Li Xiaoyuan to Fang Zhirong. The two of them, whose reputations were once on par with each other, had similar realms. One was a weak 7th pin, while the other was close to 7th pin. They fought fiercely. Fang Zhirong relied on the inheritance that was currently stronger than his opponent's, his slightly stronger strength, and his desire to win that contained anger to win. He won one move and sealed the outcome. Shanbei entered the final match of the National University Martial Arts competition for the third time in 3 years. Before that, they had won the championship twice. Sometimes, it was not that you were not strong enough or did not work hard enough. It was just that some people were stronger than you and worked harder. In this match, some special spectators were not as excited and involved as the people around them. Instead, they watched the match with a critical attitude. They were the observers of Haiyuan Club and other forces. They were considering whether Li Xiaoyuan and Fang Zhirong were worth roping in. If so, how much would they be willing to pay? Peng Liyun, Renli, Lu Qing, Lin Ke, and Chaoyang, and Jin Huanqing had already been taken. Only Li Xiaoyuan and Fang Zhirong, who had not joined any forces, were worth roping in. After the wonderful battle, these observers left the martial arts stadium of the Imperial City thoughtfully after they had gained something. In the live broadcast room, the host, Lu Chang, made a concluding speech. Both semifinals were extraordinarily intense and wonderful. We didn't let you down, especially the match between Songqing University and the capital. It had all the elements of anxiety, twists and turns, accidents, and small probability. It was definitely a match that could be recorded in the history of university martial arts competitions. Let's congratulate Peng Liyun, Lu Qing, Lin Ke, and the others for meeting in the final. They came from the same division and met again in the final. In addition, let us also thank and bless Chindigua, and Chaoyang, Jin Huanqing, and other students who are about to leave the martial arts circle in the university. We thank them for the wonderful battles they have contributed to us in the past 4 years, and we wish them a better and better journey in life. Having said so much, let's get back to the topic. Let's look forward to the winner of the two strongest university martial arts clubs in 2 days. Let's see who can pick up the highest honor. On the evening of April 25th, the usual time, old friend, see you there. As soon as he finished speaking, the broadcast screen switched to the currently dilapidated ring. With this as the background, crisp tapping sounds could be heard. 2 lines of content popped out word by word on April 25th, 7:40 p.m., the final match of the National University Martial Arts Competition, Shanbei University Martial Arts Club vs Songqing University Martial Arts Club. 1 year of hard work, 1 year of closure. On the bus back to the hotel, Lu Cheng and the others were still immersed in the happiness of winning the capital by a narrow margin. Yes, a narrow margin. If Yan Zhika had been forced to use her 2 trump cards in the previous match, Jiang Kongchan, who had been mentally prepared, would not have been so easily baited. She would have been helplessly trapped in the combo, which gave her more than a 70% chance of winning. The joy of winning against a weak opponent who was sure to be defeated would not last long, because it was a matter of course. However, after racking their brains and finally defeating a strong opponent, the joy and excitement would linger for a long time. Even after 10 days, dozens of days, or even hundreds of days, the person involved would still enjoy the aftertaste of the victory. Yan Zhika was in such a state now. She was obviously excited. If Geyser had not banned celebration and midnight snacks to cultivate the awareness of the final match, she would have invited everyone to have a good time. Looking at his girlfriend who had become a chatterbox, Lu Qing smiled and lowered his voice. How about we sneak out later, have a midnight snack, and have a date? Personally, he was more willing to go back to the hotel to enjoy the massage and whisper sweet nothings to each other. However, Yan Zhika obviously wanted to have some other activities to satisfy the excitement of the previous match. I don't think that's a good idea. Yan Zhika looked out of the window at the brightly lit street. Although she said so, her eyes were filled with eagerness to try. Humph, it's not my fault. It's Ching who tempts me to do bad things every time. What are you afraid of? My master has always been tough on the mouth but soft on the heart. As long as we don't go out together, he will definitely turn a blind eye. Lu Qing smiled and put his mouth close to Yan Zhika's ear. He was afraid that Shi Jiangwo would catch him talking behind his back. Yan Zhika's ears were very sensitive. Just the breath of the conversation dyed them red, which was very beautiful. Yan Zhika tilted her head, rolled her eyes, and said with a, I'm in a dilemma, look, since you invited me so sincerely, I'll think about where to go and what to eat later. While talking, the bus stopped at the entrance of the hotel. Everyone got off the bus one by one. Geyser was the first to enter the lobby and went to the elevator in a hurry. Damn, I'm so happy that I drank all the wine I brought. At this moment, Yan Zhika saw a few shared bicycles parked by the roadside. She had an idea and blurted out, Cheng, how about we take a night tour of the capital? We've been here for so many days, but we haven't gone out yet. Seeing her beautiful eyes, Lu Cheng was about to agree without any principle. However, Yan Zhika frowned and said in denial, no, you've been hit by the unique skill of the plague sect and your body is still weak. You can't ride a bike like this. She didn't feel tired at all. Because she won so quickly, she didn't consume much energy. She just used the army formula and the meteor force once. She also pretended to dodge for a while. Under the stimulation of her spirit, she didn't feel tired at all. It's okay. I've recovered. Apart from the negative state, Renli and I haven't reached our limits yet. Lu Qing volunteered to comfort her. His spirit was not exhausted. As for his physical strength, there was no problem with the Jin Dan. At most, his feet were a little light and his foundation was not very stable. No. Yan Zhika shook her head sadly. She pursed her lips and pretended to think, hoping to find a way to get the best of both worlds. Suddenly, she showed her dimples and said with a smile, how about this? I'll take a night tour of the capital. In the past, you carried me on your back. This time, I'll do it. Lu Qing was stunned for a moment, and then he replied with interest, okay. He wasn't worried that Ku wouldn't be able to carry him since he had gained a lot of weight. After all, she had practiced the swordsman formula and was now a top professional ninth pin fighter with vigorous chi and blood. When she got tired, he could just take her place. He would satisfy her whims first. Then it's decided. Yenjika raised her chin, looking very charming. But as soon as she finished speaking, she frowned again. There's no back seat on a shared bicycle, how could he carry her? How could such a big piece of orange fit in that small storage box? This is a very specific problem. Lu Qing thought, thinking of a solution. At this moment, little Ming came over and said with a sly smile, "You need a bike with a back seat?" "You heard that?" Lu Qing asked, "Wait, shouldn't you be in the hotel?" "Just like the others. I'm waiting for my Fang Yuan." Kai Zhongming said seriously, "You were talking so loudly that I could hear you from 5 meters away. If not for our crosstalk friendship, I wouldn't have come to help." Lu Qing understood what he meant. He asked in surprise, "You have a solution?" "Of course, my Fang Yuan school is not far from here. She rides here every time. She has her own car with a back seat." Kai Zhongming smiled and said, "Tell me, how are you going to thank me? I won't hurt you for 3 days?" Lu Qing asked tentatively. "What kind of thank you is this? How about this? Teach me the hand gestures and pronunciation of the 9 words formula later. I don't want you to teach me your secret knowledge, but to correct my self-taught content." Little Ming said without hesitation. It's useless to only know the hand gestures and pronunciation without specific visualization. Lu Qing was a little confused. "I have my own use," Kai Zhongming said proudly. Lu Qing suddenly understood and said with amusement, "Have you heard of the story of the boy who cried wolf?" "Don't worry about it." Kai Zhongming laughed. After the deal, he walked out to greet Fang Yuan. Yenjika pursed her lips and tried to hold back her laughter. "Cheng, I'm suddenly looking forward to your crosstalk combo." Cough, it's hard to come up with a good line. Lu Qing pretended to be serious and made the girl laugh again. After a few minutes, Fang Yuan, who was wearing dark clothes, arrived and lent her bicycle to them. After thanking her, they pushed the bicycle to the side of the road. Yenjika looked at her watch and said, "We don't have much time. Let's go somewhere closer." "Okay. I'll do whatever Coach Yen says. Wherever you go, I'll follow," Lu Qing said with a smile. Yenjika rolled her eyes at him and got on the bicycle. She got into position, patted the back seat and said with a smile, "Come, I'll take you to play." "I feel like you're kidnapping me." Lu Qing chuckled and sat sideways on the bicycle, holding on to the support. "Let's go." Yenjika was very excited and raised her voice. She stepped on the pedals and swayed to the other side of the road with Lu Qing. When she was riding steadily, Lu Qing put his hands on her soft and slender waist and wrapped them around her front. At the same time, he put his upper body close to her and breathed in the girl's fragrance. It was the first time Yenjika carried a person and the first time she was hugged like this. Her body suddenly stiffened and the bicycle's track became crooked. "Careful, careful." Lu Qing quickly adjusted his muscles and changed the center of gravity to help her stabilize. "Don't move your hands," Yenjika said shyly. "I haven't moved my hands, put them down and don't move them around." Their voices faded away and the two figures left behind a cheerful road. The bicycle started to move again. At this time, the sky was dark and the lights were like rainbows. Chapter 403. In the capital at night, there were bustling streets that were even livelier than during the day. There were also quiet alleys with all kinds of parked cars and doors open sporadically. There were also ancient city walls and mansions that were dark and cold. Lu Qing sat on the back of the bicycle, with Yenjika's hair floating in front of his eyes, her familiar and beautiful fragrance lingering around his nose, her soft and elastic waist in his hands, and her clear and soft voice in his ears. Being carried by her, they passed through the prosperity and warmth of the city, through light and darkness, through ancient history and the present. Between heaven and earth, everything seemed to degenerate into the background, leaving only the bicycle and the two people on it, relying on each other. No matter where they rode, they were fearless. Everything was so beautiful. Sometimes they stopped to take selfies, and sometimes they chatted about the luck of winning the semi-final and the excitement of finally winning it. They also felt the sadness of the capital's elimination, and thought about the difficulties and expectations of the final match against Shanbei. As they talked, their topics diverged. In the night wind, with the swaying trees on both sides of the road, they talked freely about their dreams and common future. They were nervous about being in a foreign country in a year's time, and were sure that each other could overcome the test of distance and time, hold hands, and grow old together. Young and frivolous, it was too early to separate. Soon they put this matter behind them and planned where to go for a holiday on the 1st of May. It was a pity that they had to miss the ranking event because they were in the final match. For Lu Cheng, it didn't matter whether he participated or not. He was confident that he could still improve himself. In a year or so, he might enter the Inhuman stage and be ranked as professional 5th pin directly. At present, he didn't need a professional 6th pin certificate to show his strength and level. It could be used as a stepping stone to enter the professional team or get the security requests of the rich. But Yen Jika, because of her congenital deficiency, had no way to enter the Dan stage. She wanted to get a professional 9th pin certificate to fulfill one of her wishes. However, she still had a chance in October next year. At that time, as one of the top 2 teams in the division, Songqing University would enter the group stage as the seeded team. They wouldn't need to participate in the first few rounds of the knockout matches, which wouldn't conflict with the ranking event. Secondly, the substitutes would have grown up, and some of them would take time to participate in the ranking event. The lights were bright and the wind was gentle. Yen Jika rode the bicycle back to the entrance of the hotel with Lu Cheng. Her eyes were full of spirit and joy. She seemed very happy. Leaving on a whim and returning on a whim. Along the way, she had the companionship of a lifetime. This was so beautiful that it made her abnormally intoxicated. Which room is Talker staying in? I have to return the key to him. Yen Jika locked the car. At this moment, Lu Cheng saw that her shoelaces were untied, so he squatted down and helped her tie them. He laughed and said, "Do you want to knock on the door directly?" "It's not me. It's you." Yen Jika lowered her head and smiled, looking at her boyfriend's hair like a little girl. "I can't do that either. Who knows what Talker and his wife are doing right now? Wouldn't knocking on their door be ruining their fun?" Lu Cheng chuckled. "Your mind is so dirty. Do you think we're all like you? You're a playboy." Yen Jika spat. "You call this dirty? They've been dating for so many years, it's a serious matter. What if he and Fang Yuan went out on a date?" Lu Cheng finished tying her shoelaces, stood up and said, "I'll call Talker first to make sure he's not in the room and whether he's doing anything. Then I'll send the key to him. Just to be safe." "Don't." Yen Jika suddenly wanted to stop him, but she stopped halfway. "Why?" Lu Cheng asked in bewilderment as he held his phone. Yen Jika gave him a look that said, "Are you stupid? You just said not to ruin their fun. How could you forget it in the blink of an eye? It's just a phone call." "Oh." Lu Cheng suddenly understood and snickered. "You know about this too?" Yen Jika turned her head and looked to the side. She snorted and said, "I've read so many romance novels and TV series. At the critical moment when the male and female protagonists are about to do something, the phone often rings suddenly. The male protagonists will be very depressed." As she spoke, she laughed in a low voice, as if she was very happy to hear about this kind of thing. Since she didn't have enough time in her daily life, she rarely read novels and TV series. She often had to rely on Li Liantong to teach her the latest popular scenes. "Yeah, he'll definitely be very depressed." Lu Cheng agreed with a smile. "Then I'll send a message to Talker. Actually, based on my understanding of Little Ming and his rich life experience, he'll definitely turn off his phone and unplug the guest room's telephone line at critical moments. That's why I suggested calling him directly. Why else would he be called the Casanova? Okay. Yenjika nodded twice like a chick pecking at rice. Lu Qing quickly tapped on the keyboard on his screen and sent a message to Kai Zhongming. Smirk, is anyone home? If not, I'll knock on your door directly. For a moment, no one answered. Lu Qing put away his phone and looked at Yenjika with a smile. He spread his hands and said, "Am I right?" Humph. Yenjika glared at him and said, "Then I'll leave the key with you. When he replies, you can give it to him. If it's past bedtime, you can return it tomorrow morning." While speaking, she handed the key to Lu Qing, then bent down and pinched her calf. She said with a smile, "I've been carrying you for so long, now it's your turn to give me a massage to relax." During their date in the capital, she refused Lu Cheng's request to change shifts several times. Under the curious gazes of passers-by, she carried her boyfriend and finished the whole journey. Okay. Lu Cheng was also full of expectations. Hearing his answer, Yenjika suddenly thought of something and blushed. "You promised me that you wouldn't take advantage of me tonight." She said, "You promised me that you wouldn't take advantage of me tonight. How can I massage you if I don't take advantage of you?" Lu Qing chuckled. "I mean, in that sense." Yenjika glared at him, feeling both angry and amused. Under the light, she was so beautiful that it was breathtaking. Okay, I won't take advantage of you," Lu Qing said as he pulled Ku into the elevator. Hee, if you don't take advantage of me, you can take advantage of other things. Besides, how can you call it taking advantage of a boyfriend and a girlfriend? Cheng, why are you smiling so wretchedly? Yenjika looked at her boyfriend suspiciously. Of course not. Look at my righteous face. Lu Qing pointed to his forehead. While talking and laughing, they arrived at the floor where they were staying and stopped at the door of the girl's room. For some reason, they both quieted down at the same time. The atmosphere became quite subtle. In the dim light, something was surging secretly. I'm opening the door. Yenjika didn't understand why she blurted out such nonsense. Lu Cheng was about to speak when the phone in his trouser pocket vibrated violently, breaking the atmosphere. Yenjika suddenly thought of something and covered her mouth to laugh, trembling. Helplessly taking out his phone, Lu Cheng found that it was his mother, Qi Fang. He had no choice but to accept the call. Yenjika didn't swipe her card. She leaned against the door and looked at her boyfriend with a smile. Hey, Cheng, are you okay? I heard from the commentator that you were hit by some martial arts of the plague sect. It seemed to be very powerful. Qi Fang asked directly. She and Lu Jisheng had been paying attention to the national competition. Previously, she called to ask about her son right after the competition ended. Later, when Lu Cheng and the others were celebrating, the surrounding environment was too noisy, so she changed the usual time to 10 o'clock. I'm fine. This kind of martial arts only affects me for a short time. Mom, listen to my voice. Is it full of energy? Lu Cheng comforted her. That's good, that's good. Qi Fang smiled. The commentator praised you so much that I felt a little embarrassed. Your dad was so happy that he specially went to open a bottle of wine. Speaking of this, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. Your dad is deliberately looking for an excuse to drink, right? Mom is so wise. Lu Qing betrayed his father, Lu Jisheng, without any guilt. Qi Fang rambled for a while and suddenly mentioned casually, the girl in your martial arts club, Yenjika. Yes, Yenjika. Is she also from Shoshan No. 1 middle school? I remember seeing her once or twice when I went to your school. Mom actually took the initiative to mention Yenjika. Lu Qing blinked at Yenjika and replied to Qi Fang with a smile, yes, she's from the next class. We just happened to be admitted to Songqing University together. This is fate. Mom, this is how your daughter-in-law came to be. I told you, but your dad didn't believe me. She also came to watch you in the youth tournament. Chi Fong said in a tone that said, I know the truth. After chatting with Yen Jika for a while, she finally hung up the phone. Lu Qing looked at the girl with a smile and said, My mom seems to be indirectly asking about you. Do you think she's suspicious of our relationship? During the competition, Yen Jika used the army formula that even Lin Ke didn't master. During the celebration, although the scene was a little chaotic and that unemotional hug was not filmed, the feelings between Lu Qing and Ku were still quite special. Humph, aren't you not afraid of your mom finding out? Yen Jika wrinkled her nose. I'm not afraid. I want to take you to meet my parents anytime, anywhere. Lu Qing said with a smile. Hearing this, Yen Jika's eyebrows curved and her eyes softened. She turned around and was about to swipe the card to enter the house. It's time to give me a good massage. Before she could finish her sentence, she suddenly paused and turned around to look at Lu Qing in hindsight. Qing, even your mom is a little suspicious. Will my dad and the others? Yeah, my dad hasn't specially called to praise me. It's not like this in the previous competitions. Chapter 404. Lu Qing thought about it seriously and came to a terrifying conclusion. I think it's possible, even my mom, who doesn't know Ku well, has sensed something, let alone my father-in-law, who has always doted on his daughter. While speaking, he looked at the closed door and said half-jokingly, Ku, do you think your dad and Empress Dowager are sitting inside, waiting for us to come in? Are you stupid? Even if they came to the capital in advance, I have the room card. They can't get in. Yen Jika rolled her eyes and swiped the door card. After a beep, she pushed the door open and walked in. She paused for a moment, as if she was really afraid to see her parents. Fortunately, it was empty inside, neatly tidied up, and the faint fragrance of a girl's residence floated in the air. I'm just worried that you'll be nervous, so I'm trying to ease the atmosphere. Lu Qing chuckled and followed her in. After closing the door behind him, he asked, Ku, what should we do if your dad really finds out? If he finds out, I'll take you home. Yen Jika raised her hand and stammered. Finally, she said those words resolutely. Phew. After making up her mind, she calmed down a lot. She took out her phone and dialed Empress Dowager Ji Mingyu's number. She still didn't dare to face her father directly, so she decided to take a roundabout way. Well, a roundabout way. Although Lu Qing was full of confidence, he was still a little uneasy when it came to the girl's elders. After all, some people couldn't do anything right, but they were more than enough to spoil things. It was easy to ruin the relationship between him and Ku by talking about family matters. This was also the reason why he didn't mind dating Ku secretly after winning the provincial youth tournament. Before their relationship was completely stable and they were about to get married, if the elders who felt good about themselves interfered and messed things up, they might accidentally have conflicts. And when there were too many conflicts, their feelings for each other would fade away. Therefore, when Yen Jika was waiting for the call to go through, he subconsciously slowed down his breathing. Of course, he was also prepared to deal with whatever came. Hello, Mom. After a while, Yen Jika said in a sweet voice. On the other end of the phone, Ji Mingyu chuckled. You're finally willing to call back? Mom, how can you say that? When have I not talked to you? I won such an important game today. Can't I share it with you? Yen Jika blushed and retorted in a coquettish tone. In the end, she asked, Where's Dad? Tonight, the Empress Dowager sent me a few messages praising me, but my father didn't respond. Your father? Ji Mingyu suddenly snorted. He's buying a ticket to the capital. Ah. Yen Jika was dumbfounded. Lu Qing was shocked. Ji Mingyu appreciated her daughter's reaction very much. She smiled and said, Isn't it normal for a father-in-law to want to see the hairy son-in-law who stole his little cabbage? He knows. Yen Jika stammered. Would his father do something extreme? Ching definitely wouldn't dare to do anything to him. He would be at a disadvantage. Unknowingly, her heart was biased. Should I bring a bramble and ask for punishment? Lu Cheng only had this funny thought at this time. You and Lu Cheng were flirting with each other and even used the army formula. When you were celebrating, you couldn't wait to grow on each other. Your father is not a fool. How could he not realize it? Ji Mingyu said in a gloating tone. Empress Dowager's tone made Yan Jika feel a little relieved. She asked with concern, my father, how did he react? Did he say anything? His expression was very interesting. Surprise, astonishment, anger, and disappointment alternated. Ji Mingyu didn't hesitate to mock her husband. She vaguely recalled the expression of Ku's grandfather when they were caught in bed. My father was kind enough to not beat him to death on the spot, and then? Yan Jika continued to ask. Lu Cheng listened more attentively. Your dad glared at me and asked me if I had known about it long ago. I said that the signs were so obvious. Even if I didn't know, I would have known. His disappointment was written all over his face. Son, Dad is very disappointed in you. Ji Mingyu chuckled. I told him that when I thought about our time together, he was speechless. When I told him about your attitude and Lu's promise, he kept nagging about how you weren't close to him anymore. You fell in love with a boy and kept it a secret from him. You didn't even take the initiative to talk to him. He said that he wasn't a feudal tyrant, so why did his daughter distance herself from him? Your father is such a hypocrite. Yan Jika was amused by Empress Dowager. She sighed and said, my father admitted it? He didn't say whether he would admit it or not. He just kept checking Lu Cheng's information. If I didn't know that your father didn't know any witchcraft, I would have suspected that he wanted to curse his hairy son-in-law. After checking, he sat in a daze for half an hour and smoked 2 cigarettes for the first time. Speaking of this, Ji Mingyu began to feel sorry for her husband. Do you have to be so flamboyant about your relationship? Can't you keep it a secret until you graduate? Anyway, after your dad finished his daydream, he started to book the flight tickets. He said that he wanted to encourage you for the finals and to see if Lu Cheng was an honest and reliable person. He also wanted to see if he was a playboy. He didn't want you to be cheated. Sigh, I was so worried. Yan Jika's heart warmed. She asked, when are you coming over? He booked a flight for the day after tomorrow. He still has 2 surgeries tomorrow. He said that he wouldn't disturb you guys before the finals and that he would talk to you after the competition. Ji Mingyu clicked her tongue. Your father is back after his shower. Do you want to talk to him? Yes. Yan Jika's heart was full of guilt. Hey, Ku, did you go back to the hotel after the celebration? Yan Kai's voice was still magnetic, but there was a hint of tiredness. Yan Jika answered guiltily, I didn't celebrate because I was preparing for the finals. I just went out with Lu Cheng and came back. Since Dad doesn't want me to keep it a secret, I'll just say it. There was a short silence on the other end of the phone. Yan Kai sighed with a smile. My daughter has grown up before I know it. I'm not against you dating in college, but I hope you won't lose your life because of love. You'll be more mature and understanding. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Since you like him, just date him. No matter what, don't make yourself suffer. If there's any problem, your mother and I will always be here. Our home will always be here. After the finals, if it's suitable, let's have a meal together. Okay. Yan Jika nodded with red eyes, even if her father couldn't see it. Well, rest early and prepare for the finals. Yan Kai hung up the phone with mixed feelings. Yan Jika held the phone and stared at Lu Cheng for a few seconds. She clenched her fist and punched him in the chest. She said with a sigh and a smile, young man, do your best. Okay. Lu Cheng reached out and held her fist, pulling her into his arms. He seemed to be more nervous than fighting Peng Liyun. I have to do my best in the finals. Although Uncle Yen must have watched my matches before, this time he won't be watching as a classmate or an elder. The more a father-in-law looks at his son-in-law, the more picky he gets. The two snuggled for a while. Yenjika suddenly exclaimed, "My father can tell, but my grandparents, my uncle, my cousin, and the others can't tell, right?" She held the phone, turned around, and said with a self-abandoning emoji, "I'm not going to call them. Let them be." Lu Qing wanted to laugh. He joked, "It's rare to see you like this. Well, this little fairy is also very cute. Do you want a massage?" "Yes." Yenjika ground her teeth. Lying on the bed, she enjoyed the comfort of the tremors slowly relaxing her muscles. Half reminiscing and half sighing, she said, "My mom said that before I was born, my dad had always hoped that I would be a girl. After his wish came true, he bought a bunch of books on family education, from the infant stage to the teenage stage. Whenever he had time, he would study hard, hoping to be a good father. Father-in-law is very thoughtful and interesting." Lu Qing praised. He felt that Yenjika was not in the right mood for intimacy, so he stopped thinking about it and focused on the massage and chatting with her. He was not a brainless person who only thought about that kind of thing. "My dad has high expectations of me. He hopes that I can be my own woman, have a mature outlook on life, love, and marriage, and realize my dreams and goals." Yenjika said with a little guilt, feeling that she had failed to live up to her dad's expectations. "But I don't regret it." As they talked and chatted, time passed by. After washing up, the girl fell asleep in the comfortable massage. Lu Qing, who had returned the key, stayed behind. In the dark night, hugging the soft and fragrant body, he felt his heart was full, neither empty nor lacking. He opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling. He thought about meeting his father-in-law, the finals, and Shanbei. "I wonder what Peng Liyun is doing now." The thought flashed through his mind. He closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. 2 days later, he would fight with him again. In the swimming pool on the top floor of the hotel. Peng Liyun sat at the bottom of the pool in swimming trunks, bare-chested. The water rippled around him, giving off a glimmer, like a dream world. He was not breathing, but his heart was beating up and down. It was as if he had returned to the beginning, to his mother's womb, to the environment full of water. Back to the innateness, looking for the root pulp. Everything around him was far away, and all kinds of things in his body appeared in his mind. Peng Liyun forgot the time and everything, and felt the subtle details of his body in a wonderful state. Suddenly, his body shook and floated out of the water. He exhaled a long breath of turbid air. His muscles were not exaggerated or deformed, but obviously contained explosive power. "Good, you improved again. You held on for almost 2 more minutes." Beside the swimming pool, Su Wanyan held his phone and gave a thumbs up. Peng Liyun, who had just come to the edge of the pool, smiled and said, "Not bad." His hair was completely wet, sticking to his head, strand after strand, giving him a different kind of masculine charm. "You take a rest. I'll swim and relax." Su Wanyan put down his phone and jumped into the pool with a splash. Suddenly, he uttered a strange cry as if he had been poked by something. He asked in confusion, "Where is the electricity leakage?" As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly realized something. He stepped on the water and raised his head to look at Peng Liyun, who was in a daze on the deck chair. Chapter 405. On the same night, when Lu Qing and Yenjika were biking and Peng Liyun was practicing in the swimming pool, all the lights were off in the martial arts club of Capital College. The moonlight shone in through the window, sprinkling silver frost on the ground. Chindigua stepped on them and came to the locker room door. He paused for more than 10 seconds, then took out his keys, unlocked the door, and walked in. Then, with his hands in his pockets, he carefully looked at every inch of the place with the help of the dim light. The metal bench, the partitioned bathroom, and the clean bathroom, everything was in his eyes. Chindigua took 2 steps forward and stood in front of the locker. He opened the one with his name on it with another key. There were a lot of sundries inside, including shampoo and spare shavers. He took them out one by one and put them in his backpack. His movements were very slow, as if he was carrying a heavy iron weight. It took him 3 minutes to pack everything up. Looking at the empty scene inside, his lips trembled a few times, and he used all his strength to close the door. With a click, he locked the door again. He didn't take out the key, but let it hang there. He put down the spare key and shook it gently, making a faint sound. He took a deep look at the paper nameplate with the name, Chandigua, written on it. The corners of his mouth curled up. He took a deep breath and looked to the side. His eyes seemed to be sparkling. He reached out and pulled the nameplate off. He carefully unfolded it and smoothed it out. He rubbed it back and forth and put it in the place where the photo was. Chandigua put on his backpack and stuffed his wallet. He stepped back and approached the door step by step. He stepped back again and stared at the front. After a few seconds, he grabbed the door handle and pulled it back. Click. In the slight sound of the lock locking, Chandigua seems to be facing the wall to reflect. He still left the key on the door, carried his backpack, and measured the martial arts arena with his feet. There was a strength training room with numerous equipment, an arena with slightly old stone steps, a total of 5 levels of seats for spectators, and a wide field where various traces of training could be vaguely seen. Step by step, slowly and heavily, Chandigua finally entered the honor room. He stopped in front of the display window where the many championship trophies of Capital College Martial Arts Club were displayed. He reached out his hand again, but all he felt was the cold glass. After hovering for a moment, he withdrew his right palm, turned around, and walked outside. The backpack on his back wasn't big, as if he hadn't taken anything with him. Step by step, Chandigua kept looking around and returned to the entrance of the martial arts arena at the speed of a snail. He raised his head and looked again. He let out a long sigh and revealed a bitter smile. Clang! The door slowly closed, and everything familiar gradually disappeared from his eyes. In the end, nothing was left. The moon in the sky was as bright as ever. Chandigua turned around and left. His figure stretched out and swayed as he walked further and further away. In the shadows outside the martial arts club's office, the long-haired Ren Li and the plain-looking Shin Yu looked at each other quietly. Neither of them spoke nor stood out. After a long time, there were 2 more sighs. That night, the long-haired, classically elegant Li Xiaoyuan sat in the corner of the cafe. Opposite him was an old man who was leaning back lazily. This is the condition of our Haiyuan club. As long as you agree, you can choose the dance stage martial arts you want from the Dark Sect, Magnetic Sect, and Plague Sect. Hee, although they are incomplete, we still have the corresponding content of physical invulnerability. The old man in the dark retro martial arts suit smiled and said, "We're not in the top professional competitions yet, but you should know that witches grow very quickly. It won't be a problem for this old man to fight for another 5 years. Besides, we're also inviting other mighty ones with physical invulnerability to nurture potential reserves from the martial arts school. In short, we'll definitely be one of the 12 superpowers before you graduate." Sounds good. Li Xiaoyuan took a sip of black tea and nodded with a smile. Are you interested? The old man raised his eyebrows and smiled. We can sign a draft contract first. When you send the formal contract and confirm that there is no problem, it will be settled. Li Xiaoyuan said casually, as if this was not an important decision for his martial arts life, but just a matter of going to the supermarket to buy something. No, he would be conflicted about what to buy at the supermarket, but he was not. The old man was surprised and said, "Are you not going to think about it or talk about it?" It's settled. The other party agreed so quickly that he felt it was unreal. There is a reason for this. Li Xiaoyuan smiled. Is there a special reason? The old man asked with interest. Li Xiaoyuan took another sip of black tea and said, "My dad grew up watching you compete." The old man was stunned. You are already 20, and your dad is probably in his 40s. Growing up watching me compete. What an unpleasant compliment. Just as the old man was sighing, Li Xiaoyuan laughed and added, actually, this is a joke. The old man was speechless. The real reason is that you are the first to formally invite me. Li Xiaoyuan leaned back in his chair and replied with a smile. You are not joking? The old man asked worriedly. Do I look like the kind of person who keeps joking? Li Xiaoyuan asked seriously. The old man pondered for a moment and said, then let's sign a draft agreement first. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. For most martial artists, this time would not bring any improvement. On April 25th, the sky was blue and the clouds were white in the capital. The temperature was moderate. When they left the hotel and entered the bus, it was not yet dusk. Everything was so bright. The bus stopped and moved, and it did not take long for them to arrive at the martial arts arena in the capital. There were already groups of 2 or 3 people gathered there, looking relaxed. When they were about to get off the bus, Yenjika's phone suddenly vibrated and rang. It was from Empress Dowager. Hello, Mom, are you cheering for me in advance? Yenjika tried to make her tone light, not letting her parents feel that she was nervous about the competition. No matter how good her psychological quality was, it was inevitable for her to feel nervous in the face of the final competition that she had fought for a year, no, more than a year. Ji Mingyu chuckled and said, we are here to watch the competition. Isn't that cheering for you? Your dad and I have been waiting in the cafe outside. We saw your bus coming. Why are you here so early? Yenjika blinked and looked at Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng coughed, straightened his back, and got off the bus in a more natural and unrestrained manner. He maintained his posture, turned around, and held his girlfriend in case she tripped while getting off the bus while talking on the phone. The pressure of the final competition began to show. As the sky darkened, more and more people gathered outside. There were banners, cartoons, loudspeakers, inflatable hammers, and bursts of singing. For Shanbei and Songqing University, this was not their home ground. There were very few die-hard fans, and most of the people who followed them only had a preliminary inclination. Therefore, they got along well with each other. In the locker room of the Shanbei University Martial Arts Club, the members, who had experienced 2 finals, were preparing in an orderly manner. No one was too excited or too nervous. When everything was ready, the club president, Su Wanyan, knocked on the metal bench and said with a smile, I haven't been to a bar for a long time because of this final competition. Club president, don't talk. From now on, don't talk. Don't curse us. The blonde young man from Northern Europe laughed in a strange accent. He was strong, rough, and very confident. If you say that, you'll be struck by lightning today. Su Wanyan was both angry and amused. All right, stop arguing. Wanyan, you're in your senior year and will leave school in a few months. Do your best and don't leave any regrets. Coach Wang Qing pressed his hand and said. Su Wanyan nodded slightly. He glanced at Peng Liyun and Fang Zhirong, who were silent with their eyes closed. He shook his shoulders, stood up, and clenched his fist. Then send me off with a beautiful ending. In the locker room of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club. Gieserscher looked around and coughed twice. We're not as good as Shanbei, no doubt about that. But we didn't come here to lose, nor to give them the championship. Think about it, Songqing University doesn't have a national champion. The honor room is waiting for you to fill it. Let's fight. The barefooted are not afraid of the shoe bearers. Hearing these words, Lu Cheng looked at Lin Kei, who had his head buried in the ground without saying a word. Ku had said that the best result in the history of the martial arts club was created by her uncle, Lin Kei's father. However, they were only runners-up and failed in the finals. Brother-in-law gave up his plans for professional competitions and applied to Songqing University to make up for this regret. This regret, let's make up for it together. In the live broadcast room, the screen was replaying the journey of Shanbei and Songqing University. Shanbei defeated their opponents easily. Shanbei defeated Songqing University in the round-robin battle. Songqing University improved again. Not only Lu Cheng and Lin Ke, but the substitutes also improved. The defending champion defeated their opponents easily and advanced to the next round without bloodshed. Despite being in the death group, Songqing University seemed to be at ease. In the final battle between the strong, they even had the energy to defeat Hua Hai. Lu Qing turned the tables and defeated En Chaoyang, displaying the combat strength of a top 6th pin fighter. Lin Ke fought 1 against 2, not letting Lu Qing have the advantage. The quarterfinals were peaceful and everyone advanced easily. In the semifinals, Shanbei defeated their strong opponents again. Peng Liyun deserved the title of Demon King of the national competition. Songqing University fought hard and won a narrow victory over Capital. Their main force and substitutes played to the best of their ability. Now, the two met on the highest stage and were about to end their past. After the review, the host Lu Chang said with deep emotion, "Actually, we don't need to do these special programs. We don't need to exaggerate the atmosphere of this competition. We can do it better with just 2 words." What are these 2 words? At this point, Lu Chang paused for a moment before raising his voice. Finals. Yes, the 2 words, finals, contained all the meaning, passion, and expectation of the competition in the arena. National University Martial Arts Competition Finals, Shanbei vs Songqing University. Peng Liyun vs Lu Cheng. April 25, 7:40 p.m. It will begin. Chapter 406. The finals. Yan Shaoling, who was wearing headphones, became nervous when she heard the host, Lu Chang. Her body trembled slightly, and her breathing became a little irregular. Is this the atmosphere of the finals? Is this the feeling of the finals? She browsed the forum and saw that her wish post had gone up a few floors. She saw that Unparalleled Dragon King, Road to the Arena, and Okamoto's fan, were talking loudly, arguing about what Songqing University should do to seize the last bit of hope and win the final victory. According to her usual character, she should be making jokes and talking nonsense to liven up the atmosphere of the forum. But today, she couldn't calm down. She was restless and uneasy. She didn't see Fan Fan, Little Wonton, Dog Na, or Chi Chi. They were talking just now. Are they starting to get nervous like me? After drinking a mouthful of water, Yan Shaoling felt that her chest was stuffy. She couldn't help but get up and walk back and forth. At this moment, she saw Mu Jinyan taking deep breaths. She asked with concern, Jin, what's wrong?" "Nothing. The competition is about to start. I suddenly feel a little out of breath." Mu Jinyan was wearing her favorite traditional Chinese clothing. Her desktop was a cartoon of Lin Quebec. Oh. Yan Shaoling suddenly realized that she wasn't alone. She was as nervous as a quail. "Don't think that Jin is so powerful. She can beat me 5 times at a time. But she's still out of breath." On Weibo, He Xiaowei, who had been defeated repeatedly, tenaciously posted a prediction post again. He also bet his reputation and future. "I don't believe that Shanbei will lose today. No matter how one looked at it, they were bound to win. If they lose, I'll change my nickname to Poison Milk Hierarch. You can call me whatever you want in the future." During this period of time, he had become a lot more popular. Many replies were popping up under his post. "Damn, the mysterious power from the east is starting to show its power. I'm kneeling before Shanbei, what should I do? Should I take off my pants and bet on Songqing University? I'm asking for answers online. It's urgent. Just you wait. If Shanbei loses tonight, I'll send you a car full of blades." Can the power of the poison healer really change one's fate? Amidst the teasing, all-knowing man in ganghood, who had disappeared for more than 2 days, quietly posted on Weibo, "I'm not going to make any predictions. I'm just going to tell everyone a piece of news. Peng Liyun has already stepped through that door and is starting to transform into an inhuman. You should know what this means. Breaking through was a process, not a node. After clicking send, all-knowing man in ganghood heaved a sigh of relief. He felt that the depression he had been feeling for the past few days had been greatly alleviated. Then, he picked up his cup of water and took a sip. He refreshed the page and saw the new reply. In other words, for Peng Liyun to truly reach the inhuman stage, it would take another 10 days to half a month? All-knowing man in ganghood spat out a mouthful of water, messing up his computer screen. Although that's not wrong, that's not the main point I want to express. The beginning of the transformation meant that something miraculous was happening. It also meant that Peng Liyun's strength had increased to a certain extent. Shanbei, which already had a great advantage, would easily defeat Songqing. No, they would sweep Songqing clean. Pulling out a tissue and wiping the screen clean, he saw the follow-up comments. Damn, poison milk hierarch just started to work. Peng Liyun is going to defy the natural order. Is he going to break poison milk's supernatural ability head-on? Although your analysis and predictions are not very accurate, and your subjective bias is too obvious, the insider information is always very accurate. As expected of all-knowing man in ganghood. This, as a student of Songqing University, I can only pray that they won't lose too badly tonight. 3-2 is the best. Peng Liyun's transformation is really timely. As expected of the big devil, seeing these discussions, Yan Shaoling and Brahman became even more nervous, and their breathing became increasingly labored. In the stands of the martial arts arena of the capital city, Yan Kai habitually held Ji Mingyu's hand with his right hand and looked at the center of the arena with a solemn expression. Don't look like that. You look like you have a deep grudge against Lu, Ji Mingyu joked with her husband. I don't think so. Yan Kai touched his cheek with his left hand. He didn't think there was anything wrong with his expression. Ji Mingyu shook her head and smiled. You. Ku will grow up sooner or later. There will be a boy she likes sooner or later. She will have her own family sooner or later. It's just a matter of 2 or 3 years earlier. I'm just worried that a student relationship won't last and that Ku will be hurt. At this age, everyone is still too immature and idealistic. Yan Kai sighed. You're the only one who worries. She's also my daughter. I'll keep an eye on her. Ji Mingyu curled her lips and looked at the arena. She whispered, don't think about it. Just focus on the competition. This is the final. I've never fought in a final in my life. Yan Kai nodded slightly and looked around. He felt that the atmosphere of the final was slowly fermenting. In the live broadcast room, the host, Lu Chang, turned to the guest commentator Chen Sanqing and said, Sanqing, I don't think you've predicted the outcome of the final this time. Chen Sanqing smiled and said, because it's relatively easy to predict. There's no need to post it on Weibo. Peng Liyun has shown that he is better than Ren Li and Lu Cheng in the previous matches. But this is not his limit. He can start the process of transformation at any time. In this way, even if he can't complete the 1v2, Fang Zhirong can easily defeat the remaining one after a hard battle. Yan Zhika has shown the strength of a top professional ninth pin. She has a lot of tricks and unpredictable fighting styles. But not to mention Fang Zhirong, even Su Wanyan, the Jinx, can easily defeat her. No matter how you look at it, Shanbei has a 70% to 80% chance of winning. However, there are many factors to consider in a match. For example, improvisation and mutual promotion. For example, Lu Cheng is very good at restraining Su Wanyan. Even if he has little HP left, he can still beat him. So, if a similar situation occurs, Songqing University also has a chance of winning. It depends on how hard they work to create such a situation. A 20% to 30% chance of winning is not a hopeless situation. I hope Songqing University won't be discouraged, won't give up, and fight with spirit and style. Lu Chang couldn't help but laugh. Are you cursing Songqing University with your last words? No, I'm sincere. Chen Sanqing shook his head and smiled. I know. Sincere cursing. Lu Chang joked. They tried to cooperate with the director to make the atmosphere more solemn and tense. In the locker room of the Shanbei University Martial Arts Club, the young coach Huang Qing looked at his watch and stood up. This is the final match. Once you make a mistake, there's no way to make up for it. Let me remind you, don't be careless and lose. We'll welcome Songqing University in the toughest way possible. Liyun, you go first. Don't worry about the rest. Win as many as you can. Peng Liyun woke up from his trance, and the light in his eyes gradually gathered. He nodded slightly and said, okay. His tone was calm, not generous, not impassioned, as if it was a matter of course. Zhirong, you go second. Try not to let Wanyan fight. Huang Qing looked at Fang Zhirong. Fang Zhirong knew the importance of the final match, Lu Cheng's current terrifying level, and Lin Kei's current strength, so he didn't fight to be the vanguard. He gritted his teeth and said, okay. Huang Qing looked at Su Wanyan and said with a smile, if you really have the chance to fight, it's up to you whether the ending is beautiful or sad. Do you understand? Yes. Go all out. Su Wanyan shook his fist and said loudly. His emotions infected Bernhard and the other substitutes as they followed suit and shouted, come on. Go all out. In the locker room of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Geezer Shi was about to arrange the order of the day's matches when Lin Kei stepped forward and said in a deep voice, Coach Shi, I want to go first. This. Lu Cheng and Yan Zhika looked at each other in surprise. They didn't say anything and waited for Comrade Shi Jiangwo to say. Geezer Shi was not surprised. He laughed and said, you have to think carefully. The first one to fight is likely to meet Peng Liyun in his peak state. I don't want to discourage you, but you are likely to lose. Lin Kei didn't look at the others but stared at Geezer Shi. I know, but this is the only way we can win. In the previous battles, Lu Qing didn't have a chance to show his strength. Only by making good use of this can we have a chance to win against Shanbei. Since reaching the level of professional sixth pin, Lu Qing hadn't shown the advantage of the Jin Dan to make up for his strength except for the battle with En Chaoyang and Piao Yuan. In that battle, he had reached the limit because he was in a desperate situation and hurriedly used his power of blaze. In other words, although everyone knew that he didn't have endless strength, they didn't know where the limit of his current state was. Of course, it was foreseeable that he could last longer than other sixth pin fighters. Geezer Shi just nodded and didn't say anything. Lin Kei continued, Lu Cheng is only a little weaker than Peng Liyun. If I can try my best and consume more of Peng Liyun's energy, he may have a chance to win. As long as he is in a better state than the battle with Piao Yuan, he may be able to defeat Fang Zhirong again. As for Su Wanyan, he is too self-indulgent and doesn't have the Corvine mouth. I'm afraid he can't even beat Kai Zhongming. Wait, do I look weak? Little Ming was dumbfounded and laughed at himself. Lu Cheng was even more surprised. Not because of Lin Kei's analysis, but because he felt that he might have met a fake brother-in-law. He actually said so much. Was it because the more he cared, the more he talked? He turned to look at Coach Yen and found that her eyes were similar to his. That's right, but you have a heavy responsibility. If you are defeated by Peng Liyun in his peak state, we can go back to sleep. Geezer Shi looked at Lin Kei seriously, which was rare for him. Lin Kei always had a psychological problem. It would be bad if he was burdened by it. Lin Kei's expression didn't change. He nodded solemnly, I'm willing to take it. Good. Geezer Shi didn't say anything else and agreed. He turned to Lu Cheng and said, Brat, you go second and defeat Peng Liyun. Yes. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and answered with fighting spirit. Little Yen, you go last. If you are lucky enough to meet Su Wanyan, don't be afraid. Just don't give him a chance to speak. Geezer Shi looked at Yan Zhika with a smile. Yes. Yan Zhika nodded hard. Geezer Shi laughed and looked around at Li Mao, Sun Jian, He Zi, Kai Zhongming and the others. Do you feel sorry that I didn't give you a chance to play? No. Kai Zhongming answered immediately. I like it the most. Coach sure, think about it. We don't have to do anything but shout 666 when Cheng and Lin K win the game. Then we can wait for the prize money. What a wonderful thing. Looking at little Ming's shameless face, Geezer sure was speechless for a while. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, the final match was about to begin. In the locker rooms of both sides, the team members spontaneously formed a circle. The team from Shanbei put their hands on top of each other and shook them. Then they suddenly shouted, "Champion!" On the team of Songqing University, Lu Cheng and the others still had their arms around each other's shoulders and shouted in unison, "Victory is ours!" Clang! The doors of both locker rooms opened together. Under the leadership of Lu Cheng and Peng Liyun, the team members of Songqing University and Shanbei University filed out and walked into the spotlight. At this time, the referee also stepped into the arena to check the time. April 25, 7:40 p.m., the final match of the National University Martial Arts Competition officially began. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.